This is Audible.
Unforgiving Queen. Stolen Empire Book 2. Written by Eva Winners. Performed by Brooke Daniels and Gideon Frost. Prologue. Eamon, 12 years old. It was me. I stepped forward, Dante by my side, as we claimed responsibility for the broken 15th century vase that Father took great pride in. The little girl stared at my father with wide eyes, her gaze darting from me to him, then back to me. Her golden curls bounced left and right, fear evident on her face. My father had barely glanced at her and her sister, yet the two of them shook with fear. They must not get in trouble very often. What's going on here, Leone? The man I knew to be Tommaso Romero showed up with his wife, the latter rushing to the girl's side. The pair were almost identical, except one had dark hair like her father, and the other was the mirror image of her mother, with sunflower yellow locks. Father didn't acknowledge him, his eyes drilling into my brother and me. Could he read the truth in our eyes? I wasn't sure. All I knew was that I couldn't let him hurt these girls. Angelo, Romero snapped. Father's eyes moved to the man with lethal calm. Nothing. You and your wife and your brats can go, he stated in English. The girl's mother didn't hesitate. She took the girls and ushered them away. You fucking... Tommaso Romero was pissed. His face turned red, and he reached for his gun, secured in the holster, as did Father.
Tommaso!
The girl's mother seemed desperate to get out, but Romero refused to move. His gaze locked with Father's, neither one of them willing to budge.
Tommaso, let's go home,
she whispered, her voice trembling as she nodded toward the girls. The one with wheat-colored curls locked eyes with me, worry filling her gaze.
Papa, can we take them home?
Romero glanced down, following her gaze to Dante and me. His eyes came to rest on Dante for a fraction of a second, before settling on me. I'm sorry, Sunshine. We can't. He finally broke his lingering stare to address his daughter. The girl pursed her lips.
But I don't want to leave them, Papa. Please.
My mom appeared in the hallway, her footsteps soft against the marble.
Angelo? I didn't know we were hosting a party. I wouldn't have gone to pray if I had.
She took in the scene in front of her. Could she sense the tension? An expression I didn't understand passed her eyes, but I didn't get the chance to read into it before.
What are you doing here?
Her voice was cold as ice. Why was she speaking to Romero this way? I'd never heard her take such a bitter tone before. Not when Father was mean to her, and especially not with guests in our home. Mama's eyes traveled over his wife and children, something resembling hate flickering in them. Regretting ever stepping foot in this fucking home.
Tommaso!
The way the man's wife scolded him made me think she'd never heard him utter a single curse before. The girl with dark hair tugged on his sleeve and motioned her hands. What was she doing? No, we can't go back to California, Romero answered. It dawned on me that she must be deaf. I'd seen a movie with an actor who used sign language before. No, let's go, he instructed. The little girl with golden curls yanked her hand from her mama and ran over to me, hugging me like I was her lifeline. I stood stiffly, unfamiliar with this kind of affection from strangers. She hugged me tighter, and I had to stifle a pained wince from the beating Dante and I had received last week as part of our training.
Are you going to be okay?
She whispered, while the bruises covering my back and torso throbbed from my last week's beating. How could it be that a simple hug from a girl I'd just met made the pain feel better? It was all too confusing. Her papa came over and gently tugged the girl away. The moment she stepped back, the feeling of loss washed over me, and I swayed on my feet. "Stay away from my family and my kids," Romero muttered under his breath. Whether his threat was directed at me or my father, I would never know for sure. With the Romero family out of sight and earshot, Father turned to my brother and me. "You two will get a treat today." He smiled coldly. "Nobody disrespects me in my own home." He flicked his gaze over our heads and dipped his chin. Two of his guards stepped forward from the shadows and exchanged words with him in English before dragging us away. That night, our world turned black. Like a damn psychopath, our father had Dante and me beaten and tortured until it hurt to breathe. I couldn't shut off my brain afterward. Instead, I learned the ways of self-preservation in that cold, damp basement, refusing to submit to weakness. One day, I thought, as I sat alone in the dark cell, I'll get my brother and me out of this fucking place. I made a vow then. I'd become stronger than our father, more powerful, more calculating. Better yet, I'd kill him. Because it was clear that Angelo Leone was a sadist, not a father. 1. Eamon, 23 years old. Death was a part of life. A breathless body, a splatter of blood, empty eyes. By my not-so-tender age of 23, I had killed and tortured countless men. I didn't regret any of it. But Reina Romero's pain felt like a bullet to my heart. I felt her before I saw her standing there. To casual bystanders, the party was in full swing. Glasses clinking, alcohol flowing, the rich and powerful in attendance, right alongside the heads of the criminal underworld organizations. But I knew better. I knew her eyes were locked on me, and when I finally looked away from my date, I registered the hearts they still carried. Every cell in me itched to plow through the room and go to her. Instead, I kissed Sakura, a model who'd made her debut at Paris Fashion Week. I'd been advised to be seen with her due to her family's connections to the Yakuza in Japan, to boost my image within the organization, as if I gave a fuck. The real reason was far more pathetic. She was on my arm tonight to keep me from doing something stupid. It was only when I spotted Reina that I decided to take it a step further and kiss Sakura. I had to stop Reina from looking at me like she wanted me. It backfired. I felt her pain like it was my own, piercing through my chest and stealing my breath. A shattered expression crossed her face. She froze, and I swore I heard her heart break before she turned around and left. Mission accomplished. But did I stay put like I should have? No, I didn't. I followed her. I needed just one more glimpse of her, knowing it was wrong, to get me through the rest of my life. I quickened my pace, using the distant echoes of her footsteps on the street like a homing beacon. Something in the air shifted, and I heard the unmistakable grind of metal on metal. I took off running, my legs now moving at an impossible speed. I was barely a block away when the worst possible scenario stared back at me. A bloodied body sprawled across the pavement. Reina's small form tangled up between two vehicles. Her golden curls, matted with blood, stark against the pavement. Eyelids shielding her vibrant blue eyes. My brother cradled her body, terror in his expression. I hadn't seen that look in his eyes since we rescued him from his kidnappers, bruised and with 1,000 cuts on his body. This is bad. Reina's fragile limbs lay at a weird angle, her face deathly pale. Panic wrapped around my throat, and for a moment I was frozen in place, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to feel. Heartbeats stretched into long seconds, possibly minutes, before fury flared inside my chest. Fuck, this isn't the end. She might be off limits to me, but this wouldn't be the end of her life. She deserved to live. I deserved to die. Pushing through the quickly growing crowd, my skull protested with every step as I neared her. The thought of Reina dead squeezed my heart and assaulted every fiber of my being. It was a fear like I hadn't experienced in a long time. Let her live, I prayed to whoever was listening. Let her live and take my life. Take me instead. I slid down onto the pavement. Ambulance, I barked. Someone call an ambulance. She was an angel, bleeding out into the cruel, dark world. It's on the way, someone answered. My knees brushed against her soft, limp body. Her lips were almost blue. What happened? I shifted Reina's body from my brother's arms. It was cold, sending shock rippling through me. There was so much blood. Where in the fuck is Darius? He's supposed to be watching her. If you'd read the status reports from Kyan, you'd know Darius is overseas on assignment. Kyan asked if you wanted someone else to fill in. You didn't fucking answer the email. My head pounded, and so did my heart. There was an endless hole in my chest. It had gotten bigger and darker over the last 3 months, but right now, it expanded to depths I didn't think possible. I was terrified. I had been so wrapped up in my head and with work, trying to ignore the outside world where Reina existed, without me, that I had completely missed Kyan's email. Now I had no one to blame but myself. This could have been prevented. You fucked up, brother, Dante said in a dry voice. Tell me what happened. The edge in my voice was unmistakable. I was teetering on the edge of losing my shit. Or I swear to God. 2 cars ran straight into her, Dante answered, his eyes locked on Reina's pale face. I can't figure out where she's bleeding the most. We need to apply pressure, but I don't want to shift her. My hands roamed over her. There were scrapes and cuts, but most of the blood seemed to pool around her waist. I grabbed her cold wrist and waited for a pulse with bated breath. The whole world ceased to exist as 1 second passed. 2. There it was. Barely. A faint beat thumped beneath my touch, and I inhaled a lungful of air. What the fuck happened here? Elias Constantine appeared out of nowhere. His eyes flicked to Reina in my arms, and recognition flared in them. Romero didn't keep his daughters hidden from sight per se, but I didn't like that Elias was here, that anyone from the underworld was seeing her in this vulnerable position. I fucking hated it, actually. Her pulse is fading, I said, desperation lacing my voice. She's fading. My car is here, he said, motioning behind him. I'll take her to the hospital. I stood up with her in my arms and followed him, Dante hurrying behind me. Shouldn't you go back to your party? Elias questioned, as I held Reina's body to my chest, her blood soaking my hands. He likely had no clue how his words would crush me, that it was my fault she'd been racing out of there. Why in the fuck did I kiss Sakura? It was so fucking wrong. I should have let Reina approach me. Instead, I let my fear of her proximity and my inability to resist her get in the way. Fuck, I should have been stronger. I slid into the back seat of his car. Fuck the party. Just get me to the hospital. I should take her, my brother claimed. No. Dante refused to move, glaring at me. You did this. He didn't bother to hide his malicious stare as he spit his venomous words at me. The worst part? He was right. Ignoring him, I looked at Elias. Tell your driver I'll pay all his traffic tickets. Just get us to the hospital. I'm coming too, Dante hissed, sliding in beside me. My eyes remained on the girl who'd changed my life. The summer weeks we'd spent together were long over, and Reina had turned into a woman somewhere along the way. I couldn't bear the thought of losing her, even though I could feel her slipping away. The weight of that reality felt like being trapped in a dark pit of my own doing. But I refused to let her leave. She might not ever be mine, but I would see to it that she lived, and she would learn to be happy, even if it was without me. 2. Eamon. Reina's condition was critical. A whole 24 hours had gone by, and she had yet to wake up. Her sister and friends would come looking for her soon if they hadn't already. The intel already had them blasting everyone's phones and reporting her MIA. They alerted the police, even goddamn Interpol. So much for keeping Reina's identity a secret. It shouldn't have surprised me that Elias knew her. The fucker knew too much about too many things. But it was beneficial that Elias had a doctor on his payroll who was already working to keep this a secret, but even he couldn't keep Reina hidden forever. Her family will have to be notified. Elias's reasonable tone was irking me. Why was he lingering in the hospital? I wanted him gone. Not yet. I needed more time with her. I needed her awake before I turned and left her behind again. Reina had suffered broken ribs, multiple fractures, punctured lungs, and a miscarriage. My fault. Guilt ate at me. It was all wrong on so many levels. But I loved her, and I still wanted her. I probably always would. This had to be my punishment for fucking up so severely, for thinking I deserved heaven when I only knew hell. A fucking miscarriage. Incest. God, acid burned in my throat every time I thought of it. Now I wasn't sure which was worse. I should have protected her. Instead, I wreaked havoc on her entire life. Her innocence. Her pregnancy was probably the reason she'd sought me out last night. Fuck. I failed her. Destroyed her. I pushed both my hands into my hair, gripping it with my fingers. I was falling apart at the seams. It was all my fault. The miscarriage was a blessing in disguise. Half-sister. Bile rose in my throat, but I pushed it down. I couldn't think about that now. The main thing was that Raina pulled through. So I focused on the sound of her pulse beeping through the machine. It was my lifeline. She needed to live. Head in my hands, I let my mind drift back to the party. I'd spotted her the moment she stepped on the terrace, her simple pink dress setting her apart in the best way possible. She looked out of place, and so fucking alone that it made my chest ache. Now I understood the desperation and emptiness in her eyes when she stared at me. I snuffed Raina's light out. When she survived this, she'd never be the same. Her body would heal, but I didn't know if her heart and soul ever would. Shit like that left a mark. I'd wanted to save her from the pain. Instead, I tore her apart. I let my eyes roam over her body, covered in stitches and casts. It seemed there were tubes protruding everywhere from her, as an IV supplied a constant source of pain meds and nutrients into her body. Fortunately, aside from her miscarriage, her internal injuries were minimal. Other than her lungs, which were on the mend already, all other organs were functioning. She remained unconscious, but there were no signs of brain swelling. We'd get a better idea of the extent of her concussion when she woke up, and I knew I wouldn't take a complete breath until then. Her complexion was still pale from the loss of blood. She wasn't responsive to the doctors, and that was what terrified me the most. It was as if she'd gone to sleep and decided not to wake up. Dante left in the night and brought me back a change of clothes. It was the only time I left her side, and even then, I'd used the bathroom in her medical suite. Dante lingered, wandering in and out of the room. Elias remained too, although I still didn't understand why. Nor did I care. None of it mattered right now. I brushed the soft flesh of her wrist, gliding my finger over it. I shouldn't touch her, and yet I couldn't stop. I'm sorry, Cinnamon Girl. My throat squeezed, suffocating me. I was trying to do the right thing. Silence was my only answer, taunting me. If she heard me, she didn't show it. She hadn't moved since the doctors patched her up and brought her back into her room. Part of me envied her escape from reality, as sick as that was. My own world had turned black in the past 3 months, and I'd become a shell of myself. But still, I couldn't hide from the memories. Every word I'd ever spoken to her bruised me black and blue on the inside. Each day without her light grew colder, and I knew, fucking knew, I was going under. Neither of us would ever be the same. Having her by my side wasn't a possibility under any circumstance, so I'd settle for her existing in this world and not being mine. I'd settle for her being someone else's, as long as she was alive. My birthday is coming up, I rasped. You promised you'd be here for it. Just be on this earth. That's all I ask. I hurt her by chasing her away, but in doing so, I'd hurt myself even more. The red mist was the only company I'd had since she'd been gone. The pain lingered with a vengeance, shredding me to pieces and wrapping me in its darkness. It felt worse now that I'd tasted her light. Fuck, I cursed under my breath, running a hand through my hair. The door slid open, and I lifted my head as heavy footsteps echoed on the floor. Both Elias Constantine and my brother stood in my peripheral vision, looking grim. Eamon, we can't keep this a secret much longer, Dante attempted to reason. Elias agrees. Her friends have blasted her face all over social media. They called Interpol for fuck's sake. Constantine was a member of the Omerta, as well as the Pakan of the Russian mafia. Well, when Sofia Volkov wasn't stealing his thunder, that was. Not that he seemed troubled by any of it. We need to call her family. Let me do it, Dante suggested. I'll message her sister and let her break the news to the rest of her family. Elias wasn't the one who worried me. It was my brother. Dante's glare and arctic demeanor hadn't eased since the accident. It seemed Dante had switched sides and decided to become Reina's protector. It burned like acid through me, but I had to ignore it. I had no right to her, and having someone like my brother looking out for her well-being should bring me comfort. I just had to work on being a bigger man and accepting that fact. Her sister alerted Romero and their grandmother that Reina has been missing for days now, Elias reasoned. It's only a matter of time before they find her. I've been throwing off their searches and misleading the authorities by dropping false information, but it's only a matter of time before they figure it out. Keep leading them astray, I urged, sounding calmer than I felt. I want to be here when she wakes up. It's too late to care now, Dante snapped. Let her family take care of her. I tilted my head, meeting his furious gaze. His breathing was harsh as he directed his anger at me. I was on him in the blink of an eye, slamming his body against the wall. The windows rattled with the force of it, alerting nearby nurses and doctors. Elias shut the blinds, but not before I felt their gazes through the glass. Why the fuck do you care? I asked, the warning in my voice unmistakable. I might not be able to have Reina, but I'd be damned if I'd let my brother swoop in. He said nothing, simply holding my glare and returning it in kind. Watch it, Dante, I warned, my eyes narrowed on him. I don't know what the fuck your problem is, but I suggest you get a handle on it now, and don't concern yourself with Reina. My brother and I had always seen eye to eye, mostly. We had our disagreements, as all brothers did, but we'd never physically fought outside of practice. I guess there's a first time for everything. A hand landed on my shoulder. Eamon, this is neither the time nor the place, Elias warned. I ignored him, my hand still wrapped around my brother's neck. I don't want you near her. Dante sighed. I'm not your enemy, Eamon. He jetted his chin in Reina's direction, her body unmoving and giving no indication of being aware of us. Ever since you broke it off with her, you've been different. It was hard to dispute it. I had changed. There was a black hole in my chest. Just work it out, or you'll destroy us all. His eyes locked on the bed, where Reina's body lay. It's already destroyed her. I fucking know that. Don't you think I know that? I hissed under my breath. Do you think I need you to point out the obvious to me? He opened his mouth to answer, but Constantine cut him off. Dante, why don't you step outside for a moment? Judging by my brother's expression, he was ready to tell him to fuck off. But before he could do that, Elias added. Now. Elias's tone said he wouldn't take no for an answer. He was a fair but brutal Pakan. As part of the Omerta, he could easily destroy us if he learned of our role, no, my role, in Reina's accident. In my effort to distance myself from her, I had pushed her too far. I'd never fucking intended for her to become collateral damage in any scenario. And yet she became exactly that, my mind whispered. Dante met my eyes, shaking his head. Fucking bullshit, he muttered under his breath as he moved over to the door. It wasn't until it clicked shut behind him that Elias said, I certainly hope you know what you're doing. My jaw tightened. Fucking Romero's daughter is a sure way to get yourself killed. I'm not fucking her, I gritted. Not anymore. And that was the worst part. I still wanted her. I still craved her. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't see her as my half-sister. God damn it. I was all fucked up in the head. What kind of disturbed person still wanted a woman after learning they were related? My throat constricted. Bile rose up again, but I swallowed it down, the bitter, disgusting taste souring my insides. Fine, have it your way. Elias slid his hands into the immaculately tailored pockets of his suit pants. I had yet to see the guy wearing anything else in all the years I'd known him. He valued his appearance almost as much as his stalking skills when it came to Tatiana Nikolaev. Of course, he didn't know I knew that. Reina Romero can't stay a secret here. You know that as well as I do. It's a miracle the doctor hasn't seen her picture on social media yet. Thanks for pointing out the obvious, I muttered, averting my eyes. If Romero, or anyone else from the Omerta, learns that we kept her hidden, it will cause a war among the families. We cannot afford to be weak, Eamon. I remained still, knowing he was right, but not giving the slightest shit. They could all go to war and die for all I cared. Do you think it was a coincidence she was hit? I snapped my head up. He had my attention now. I hadn't given it any thought, and honestly, I didn't fucking know. Praying she stayed alive had been consuming me since we stepped foot in the hospital. What information do you have? The comment couldn't have come out of the blue. Elias was a smart man and conducted himself with precision. He didn't blurt shit out. I know your cousin has kept an eye on Reina Romero for years. I narrowed my eyes. That's nothing new. And he tried to use her to strengthen his relationship with the Brazilian cartel. Again, old news. Get to the point, because I know you have one. My patience was running thin, and my eyes kept darting to the girl in the hospital bed, listening to that soothing but too faint beeping from the heart monitor. The driver. Look into him. There was my confirmation. He and some of his family have worked on and off for the Cortez cartel in the past. He'd barely finished the statement, and I was already sending a message to Ghost, namely Kingston, and Dante. It would keep my brother busy, and Ghost would ensure the driver was found. Thanks for the tip. It's clear you care for the girl. Fucker. I'd have to work on my poker face. After she's awake, I thought. It's clear you want to protect her. Well, you're full of revelations, I deadpanned. He ignored my sarcasm. Take over the Yakuza. Become so powerful that nobody can touch her. That's how you protect her. And what do you think I'm trying to do?" My tone was dry. Elias smiled, like a cat that just ate the canary. "I suspected it, and I'm glad I was right." "What does any of it have to do with Raina?" None of my power would make any difference when it came to the cinnamon girl. She would still remain out of my reach. She was the sun, and I was the ocean, basking in its glittery shine, but never reaching it. "Become the head of the Yakuza, and Romero will jump at the opportunity to give her to you." I let out a bitter laugh, knowing the secret that ripped me in half. I almost wished I didn't, but that was neither here nor there. I would let Elias believe it, because the secret of my blood relationship with Raina would die with my mother and me. My eyes ventured back to her just in time to see her body start to twitch. Her breathing turned harsh. Her eyes opened to slits, but panic lingered in them. "Call the doctor," I ordered, then strode to the hospital bed, leaning over her. I took her small hand in mine. "Hey, you're all right?" She didn't respond. Instead, she gasped for air, her blue eyes unfocused. It was as if a haze covered them, stealing their brightness. "Raina," I called. As if my voice made it worse, the heartbeat displayed on the machine sped up and became louder. Her lips twitched, but no sound came out. Her eyes rolled to the back of her head, and she lost consciousness once again. 3. Amen. I entered the room designed for torturing our enemies and extracting answers to find my brother had started without me. No surprise there. I just wished he hadn't beaten them to the brink of death. My gaze traveled over Dante, noting his labored breathing, destroyed knuckles, and blood-splattered clothes. It was good to know he still nurtured his crazy. "Are you sure that's them?" I asked my brother. I focused on the man tied to the chair, while Dante stood in front of the guy hanging from the chains in the basement of our club. If the people dancing above us knew what went on under their feet, they would bolt out of here screeching like damn birds. "Yes." The images of Raina unconscious in her hospital bed played in my mind on a reel, over and over again. It set my teeth on edge. It threatened to boil over and explode like a volcano. My ears buzzed with rage, and my vision blurred as I saw nothing but red. Did he say anything? "The idiot knows nothing." "We'll see." I looked at the unconscious form. "He'll talk, and then I'll cut out his tongue and dig his eyeballs from their sockets." Dante caught my gaze with a curious expression. "Huh, I'm impressed." He stood in front of the other unfortunate soul in our holding cell. These were the men who'd run over Raina. Dante had caught them with Ghost's help yesterday. I watched from where I stood as blood dripped down his chin and bare chest onto the concrete floor. Drip, drip, drip. It reminded me of the tempo of Raina's heart monitor, slow and weak. "Yeah, well," I trailed off, retrieving my knife from its holster and moving over to the bastard. I grabbed a fistful of his hair and lifted his head. He was out cold. I flicked a look at Dante. "Give him a shot of adrenaline." Dante went to the table and retrieved it, returning to inject it into the man's outer thigh. "About the hospital," Dante started, but I shook my head. "Not now. Then when? He snapped. It's been 3 days since the accident, over 3 months since you and Raina broke it off. You started seeing other women. I tried to move on and failed. Yet you attack me when I'm trying to reason with you to move on from her. It's time to let her go. Let her go. Cackling filled the cell, each drum of my heart a betrayal to human decency. To my brother, I had given up Raina, yet I couldn't fully let her go. The thought of anyone near her had my insides twisting and my fury unleashing. What was wrong with me? She was my half-sister, for fuck's sake. I'd tried to move on. He was right about that. In the 3 months after breaking it off with her, I had done nothing but try. She's just another girl. My words rang anything but true. I didn't believe my own voice, and according to the disbelief in Dante's eyes, he didn't either. This has nothing to do with her. His scoff further indicated what he thought about that. Then why go to the hospital and stare at her? Dante questioned, frustration flickering on his face. Why attack me? The man stirred, saving me from an answer. I strode over to the table in the corner and picked up the bloody pliers from it. Ghost must have collected his payment in the form of a tooth. Deciding against the pliers, I picked up an AED. This is a portable medical device, I explained in a drawled tone. See it? I didn't wait for him to confirm. It's designed to help people in the midst of cardiac arrest by sending a shock to your black heart. I grinned maliciously. However, before you get too excited, there'll be no saving going on here today. A whimper escaped the asshole's busted mouth. I'll send a shock to your fucking heart. I ensured the device is calibrated to override the safety that'll recognize a healthy heart, so we can prolong this until you give me answers. So you see, it's in your best interest to tell me everything. When I was done with this fucker, he might actually need the device for real. Too bad I had no intention of using it that way. Dante slid his hands into his pockets and leaned against the wall, watching me. It would seem he'd gotten his fill of torture to sate his madness. It was my turn to lose myself to rage and my own form of madness. I charged it up before pressing the electropads against his ribs, and boom! His entire body convulsed, speeding up his heart. Maybe I shouldn't have used adrenaline, but I wanted him lucid. Fucking sue me. His head darted between Dante and me, looking for the weaker man. He wouldn't find one here. His pupils met mine, wide, unfocused, and dilated. What are you doing, man? He spat out, saliva dribbling down his chin. So, we have your attention, I deadpanned. He shook his head. This is a mistake. You have to release me. Release you? I repeated slowly, my lips curling to reveal the sneer I'd been keeping controlled. He nodded his head, likely mistaking it for a smile. I'm just getting started, I drawled. His eyeballs just about popped out of his head. I demand... I punched him with one of the electrodes, relishing in the sound of his skull cracking. Why did you flee the scene when you almost killed a girl 3 days ago? I didn't. Okay, Let's try this again. I pressed the pads on his chest again, and boom. His eyeballs rolled to the back of his head before they came back to focus on me. Don't know. I raised a pad, ready to shock him again, when he screamed, No, no, no. Last chance, or I'll fry your brain cells with this. I might have spotted a tear or two in his eyes. I was instructed not to get caught, he whimpered. My eyes flitted to Dante, who finally looked interested in this conversation. By whom? I don't know. I shocked him again, relishing how the skin on his ribs twitched. By whom? I gritted. I don't know, he cried like a baby. Each shockwave had him drooling. His tongue lolled as spit streamed down his chin. His eyes were red-rimmed from a combination of torture and sleep deprivation. Dante and Ghost had been at him for hours. His skin was covered in welts, and he smelled like piss. I zapped him again, feeling a sick satisfaction at the way his body convulsed, just as the product promised when I'd bought it off the dark web. All I know is that they want your distribution lines. The blonde girl was meant to be leverage. I unleashed. Static filled my ears as I gave my full attention to the asshole in front of me. I pulled my knife, grabbing his hair so he could meet my gaze. If you think my brother was brutal, you haven't seen anything yet. I rammed a blade into his abdomen with such force he let out a piercing scream. For the next 30 minutes, I sliced his skin, carving it to pieces, while Dante toyed with the other guy, ending his life way too soon. Give me the name, I gritted, twisting the knife in his body. Or I'll slice you open and make you watch as your bowels are splayed all over the floor. His face filled with agony, and blood sputtered from his mouth. Last chance. He met my eyes, terror lurking in his dull brown gaze. All I know is that they want an open route to move their products, he panted. What products? It might narrow it down to the organization if I knew what they were moving. Drugs. Every fucking organization in the underworld. Weapons. Okay. That eliminated a few families. Flesh. I stilled. Human trafficking had been eliminated from the Omerta, most of Europe, the entire U.S. East Coast, Colombia. But the Brazilian cartel and the Yakuza still dipped their toes in those filthy waters. It couldn't be a coincidence. Who is it? Dante growled. Brazilians? The fucker just stared blankly. Yakuza? Venezuelans? I don't know. Then he surprised me. He started laughing, maniacally, disturbingly. It was the kind that sent a creepy cold feeling up my spine. Fuck you. This fucker wouldn't tell us anything else. I jerked the blade upward and opened him up. He slumped forward again, life quickly leaving him. Stepping back, I slid the knife out, and part of his bowels dropped with a grotesque splash onto the floor. Another jerk of his body, and the life left his wretched face. I stared at him, seconds stretching into minutes. My heart was in agony, each beat more painful than the last. I knew at that very moment that there'd be no getting over Reyna. When I turned, Dante was staring at me as if he'd never seen me before. I raised my eyebrows. "What?" "You never lose your cool." I went over to the sink and washed my hands and the knife. My shirt and pants were black, so nobody would notice blood on them. "Dante, stop looking at me," I growled when he still hadn't moved. "And call someone to clean up this mess." I left him standing in the room and headed out, car keys in hand. I prowled through the club and hit the street, spotting my red Ferrari F8 Spider. I turned on the engine when Dante slipped in through the passenger side door. Turning my head to look at him, I gripped the wheel. I didn't have the patience for this. I wanted to get back to my place, wash up, and get back to the hospital in case Reyna woke up. What? My control was teetering on the brink of madness, and somehow that beeping sound was the only thing that could calm me down. "I hope you're not going back to the hospital." I sent him a warning look. "Don't start." It didn't faze him at all. "Whatever. The cleaning crew is on the way," he drawled, getting himself comfortable. Fuck. I rammed my fist down on the steering wheel, hitting the horn. "I can't do this with you now, Dante. Get the fuck out of the car, or I swear to God I'm going to." He raised his hands, shaking his head. Fine. Have it your way." I peeled out of there the moment his boots hit the pavement. I needed to get back to Reyna. 4. Eamon. I arrived at the hospital, full of hope, which felt like a heavy brick as it sank, fast and steady. "She's having trouble breathing," the doctor explained patiently. "There's a rattle when she breathes, and she's wheezing a lot." Fear gripped my throat. It sounded bad, very bad. "What does this mean?" "She has fluid in her lungs. We'll have to drain them so she can breathe without the assistance of a machine." "Then do it," I demanded, tensing my jaw as I willed myself to calm down. "We need her next of kin to sign off on it." This fucking doctor was starting to piss me off. The fact that he was on Elias's payroll was utterly pointless and useless. "In case there are further complications," he added. "I can't risk my medical license for this. She's too visible." God damn it. He must have seen all the fucking posters searching for her. Desperation clawed at me. I knew what I had to do, yet I couldn't bear not being with her until she opened her eyes. I needed it to keep my sanity. "You know what needs to be done, Eamon," Elias said in his dry voice. "It's a miracle I was able to keep Romero and his family off his daughter's trail for the past 3 days. He's tearing down this world and ready to start a war that he cannot win. Let him fucking fight it." "You'd let his daughters become orphans?" My chest twisted. I wasn't in the right frame of mind right now to make any decisions. I just needed to see her wake up. I'd give it all, even my own life, just to see her blue eyes open. However, I knew the moment the Romero family showed up, my access to Reyna would be cut off. "I can read it on your face, Eamon. You'd never hurt the girl." I let out a bitter-filled breath. He was so fucking wrong. I already hurt her. "Do the right thing." Do the right thing. Nobody else was doing the right thing. Her family would have her for the rest of their lives, I just wanted another day to see Raina pull through. Why couldn't Elias just keep throwing them off the trail until then? My jaw clenched, resentment slithering through my veins. Don't you have anywhere to be? Not right now. Of course the Pakhan had insisted on remaining here. If he'd left, I'd have bribed this motherfucker of a doctor and stayed in here until the police or Interpol showed up. What's your deal with Romero? No deal. Just couldn't stand the motherfucker, even more since learning he was my biological father. He cost me Raina. I didn't give a shit if my blame made sense or not. I pinned it on him. Is she awake? I asked, hoping I could get at least that. She's been in and out. I need to see her. Elias didn't seem moved by my persistence. And she needs her family. His voice was grave. She needs this surgery. Then tell this guy to do it, I snapped. He will if you greenlight it. I will not. Dr. Dubois' no-nonsense face told me he meant it. I had a feeling my heart was going to give out if I didn't save the cinnamon girl, even at the cost of my own sanity. So I did the only thing I could. Fine. I cleared my throat so I wouldn't choke, and there wasn't enough air in the fucking room as I braced myself to finish. I'll give you her family's contact information. Fuck. It killed me to say that. It's the right thing, Eamon. Then why did it feel so fucking wrong? I walked over to peer through the glass, her unconscious form deathly still on the bed. Her golden curls framed her pale face, making my heart twist. I did that. Me. I wrenched myself from the window and turned to find Elias staring at me. Somewhere in the room, the soft drip of a sink registered. The scent of bleach and disinfectant perfumed the air. I never thanked you, I started, raking a hand through my hair. I forced myself to take deep breaths until my heartbeat slowed. You would have done the same thing for me. I nodded. I owe you. I won't forget it. Elias let out a sardonic breath. If you owe me, I won't bother collecting from Romero. I couldn't tell whether he was joking or not. It didn't really matter. You've met Raina before? I asked. No answer. He leaned against the nearest wall, his expression unreadable. What's the story with you and her? No story. Not anymore. He scoffed and shook his head. It's none of your business, I finally added, hoping he'd drop the subject. Elias's sigh contained exasperation. Ah, to be young again, he muttered. Believe it or not, I'm on your side. For now. Another deeper sigh. I'm not in the habit of switching my alliances, Eamon. I glanced between Elias and the girl who'd brought sunshine into my life. I know. Elias Constantine was a man of his word. It's obvious there's something going on with you two, he remarked. When I didn't answer, he continued. I saw her at the party. She seemed pretty distraught when she saw you with your woman. I swallowed the lump of guilt in my throat. Not my woman, I muttered, closing my eyes and pressing my fingers to my temple. I'm going crazy. The last 3 months had felt like a train wreck, and it was catching up to me. Explain. I cracked my eyes open and met his dark gaze. tension shot down my spine, and my muscles stiffened. We met last summer. It was... I pinched the bridge of my nose. It's complicated. All the things and people worth having in life usually are, he deadpanned, staring at me with a glint in his eyes that I couldn't read. Fight for her. If only it were that simple. It's over, I said, my shoulders tense. Anyhow, her father would never give his blessing. It was safest to leave it at that. I couldn't reveal that I was Romero's illegitimate son, and Reina was my half-sister. Not without dragging her into the pits of hell with me, which I had no intention of doing. The pressure in my chest refused to ease, and each breath I pulled in was excruciating. Don't be a stubborn fuck, and let what matters most slip through your hands, Elias stated, flicking a piece of lint off his suit. You'll never get that time back. It sounded like he spoke from experience. The worst part was, I would fight the whole goddamn world for her. If only things were different. You'll be miserable until you work shit out with her. I tilted my head back and shut my eyes again. Probably, I agreed. But right now, I just need Reina to wake up. She'll be okay. His voice held conviction I didn't feel. Only time would tell if his words would prove true. All I could do was pray that Reina's family would allow me around until she was out of danger. Beep, beep, beep. 2 hours, and she never stirred. The sound was both comforting and dreadful now, because it counted down the seconds until her family showed up. But it was also proof she was still breathing, fighting for her life. Holding her hand in mine, I sat in her hospital room and memorized every perfect line of her face. Yes, there were cuts and bruises, but she was still the most perfect woman I had ever laid eyes on. With each beep of the machine, I was also losing my mind. I was halfway to madness already. My heart and my soul kept trying to claw their way out and stay by Reina's side, getting battered and bloody in the process. But it was pointless. Elias left the moment I provided the doctor with information on Reina's grandmother. I wondered why he didn't bother doing it himself. No, I wasn't so sure the choice was smart. I had shit to hold over Romero's head, but nothing on the old dragon of a woman. I'm sorry I hurt you, I whispered, my voice soft. She was my pull to the light, and losing her made the darkness all the worse. I wish. Her eyes remained closed, while my heart disintegrated in her hospital room. Peace. My fucking peace. This hurt worse than anything else. You will get better, Cinnamon Girl. My fingers trembled around hers. And don't you dare settle. You're going to thrive, and I'll end anyone who gets in the way, including myself. Her hand still in mine, I placed it over my heart. I'll never be the same, I murmured softly, my words choking me. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Beep, beep, beep. Her silence gave me a preview of the future, robbing me of her voice, robbing me of everything. The door swung open, hitting the wall with a loud thud, and causing the glass to clatter with the force of it. The old dragon stood at the doorway, steaming with fury. but only for a flicker of a moment. Once her eyes landed on her granddaughter, she barged in and started yelling. I shot to my feet. Keep your voice down. Raina doesn't need this right now. Diana Glasgow threw her hands in the air.
How dare you?
I should have called Romero. He didn't have the balls that this woman had. If you can't keep your tone in check, you'll find yourself out of this room, I said. She pointed her finger at her granddaughter's sleeping form.
What are you doing here? And what did you do to Raina?
Nothing. Everything. God, I was already regretting my choice. It would have been easier if Raina had been moved under the care of a doctor I could control, without anyone else interfering. Confrontational silence suffocated the air, while the constant beep of the machine soothed my irritation. I placed my hand at Diana's back and ushered her out of the room.
Tommaso Romero and your family have done enough damage to mine,
Diana hissed once we were in the hallway. I caught a glimpse of something. Was that worry lurking in her eyes?
That stops here. And now, I want you out of here.
Fuck. Nothing was going to plan. I wanted to stay until Raina woke up. I needed to see she was fine before I forced myself to move on. Alone.
5. Raina. The sound of a door slamming jostled me from my nightmare. I had to still be sleeping. Everything was dark, and all I felt was pain. Excruciating pain. It was a struggle to breathe, to think. Even letting go seemed to be too much. The muffled shouts pulled on my consciousness, but I couldn't fully wake up. Where was I? What was happening to me? Why did everything hurt? I don't want to see you anywhere near her again. Grandma's voice. The connection to you has her fighting for her life now. I blame you for this. I opened my mouth to say something. What? I didn't know, but nothing came out. She had to be talking to Papa. She always blamed him for everything. I tried to shift on the bed so I could draw attention to myself, but I couldn't move. It was as if I weighed a ton, and I found myself fighting just to inhale and exhale. My chest ached, and each breath threatened to crack my ribs. More words were exchanged, but they were hushed. My mind was too fuzzy to distinguish more than fleeting words. My granddaughter might die because of you. What you need is irrelevant here. Then the silence followed. Dark, lonely, and so fucking quiet. The sound of a door opening and footsteps approaching trilled in my ears. I needed someone to pull me out of this painful haze. I blinked my eyes furiously, willing them to open but failing. The mattress dipped as someone sat by my side. Oh, Raina. My grandmother's voice cracked and she sniffed. I failed you too. I opened my mouth to assure her I was okay, but the only thing that came out was a wheeze. The mattress shifted again. Rest your voice, she rasped. Something wet dripped onto my hand, and it took me a moment to realize what it was. Tears. The bed creaked. I imagined she was wiping away her face before someone caught her in this vulnerable state. You were in an accident, Raina. The doctors are optimistic, she whispered, her forehead meeting mine gently. They're going to take you into surgery soon, and then... And then what? I wanted to ask. What kind of accident? It was all too much. Even if I'd been able to say the words, I wasn't sure I'd want to know the answers. Being strong sucked. Being weak even more so. Where did that leave me? Alone. Without him. You and Phoenix are all I have left, she whispered. Don't you leave us. Losing your mom just about killed me. Losing you. I wouldn't survive it. Her voice cracked and she cleared her throat. You fight in there. Fight for your sister. Fight for me. Fight to live. Beep. 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 My eyes fluttered open. The buzzing in my ears was constant. Beeping rattled my skull. Bright fluorescent lights assaulted my eyelids and I groaned, reaching to touch my temple. My eyes instantly grew wide, spotting tubes attached to my veins. My fuzzy vision cleared with each blink, and I lowered my gaze to find the heavy cast on my other arm. Bruises and cuts painted every inch of visible skin. What? I coughed, my throat as dry as the Sahara. She's awake? I heard my grandmother's voice before I felt her warm touch on my hand. I turned my head slowly, squeezing my eyes shut, and then opening them again to look at her. My girlfriends and my sister were sitting behind her, 4 wide-eyed, tear-stained faces. Grandma's lips came down to my forehead, fluttering over it. I'm so glad to see your beautiful eyes. How are you feeling? I swallowed, the lump in my throat still there. The images started filtering in. The party. Eamon. I remembered how fucking bad it hurt to see him with someone else. I remembered my anxiety being dulled out by the pain of my heartbreak. Then, a set of headlights. And another. There was a voice I heard before I passed out. It sounded familiar, yet not. Don't make me resort to drastic measures. How did I get here? I coughed out, my chest tight. The girls shared a glance before Phoenix looked at Grandma, who averted her eyes and straightened her spine. I waited, holding my breath. I didn't know what for, except that I needed to hear it. Phoenix stood up and walked over to the window, pressing her forehead against the glass. Rain pounded on the other side of it, and somehow I knew she felt this pain before. This heartbreak. It was what she'd been warning me about all along. Phoenix wiped at her eyes and turned to face me. My big sister looked drained, tired, exasperated, but she didn't say anything. A good Samaritan, Grandma answered simply. My heart squeezed. Has anyone come to visit me? Something flickered in her eyes. Just your papa and us. Why did it feel like she was lying to me? My memories were scattered, my thoughts confused. I'd thought I'd heard Eamon's voice, but maybe it was all in my head. I took a deep breath in and slowly exhaled, focusing on my feet under the blanket. I swallowed, my lungs burning. Or was it my eyes? What's the prognosis? I asked, my voice weak. A heartbeat passed before Grandma answered. It's not the best. The doctor needed to perform an urgent surgery, but with time, he thinks he'll be back to normal. And the baby? I wanted to ask, but I couldn't find my voice. I suspected the answer and was terrified to hear it. Your abdomen will be sore for a while, but the damage isn't permanent. You'll be able to have children one day. I swallowed, a lump in my throat, the back of my eyes burning. My fingers reached for my necklace, twisting my necklace just like my heart. I'm going to call the doctor and let him know you're awake, she added softly, and I wondered if that was my confirmation that she knew I was pregnant. She pressed a soft kiss on my cheek, then whispered, and disappeared from the room. The door barely clicked behind her when Phoenix signed. I told you he was no good for you. She wasn't angry, just resigned. I blinked, trying to keep my tears at bay. I didn't know what to say. I chanced a glance at my friends. Raven rubbed the back of her neck, and Isla gazed away, but the same worried expression lingered on their faces. I'm sorry I scared you, I rasped, the beeping sound of the machine louder than my voice. Athena looked up, tears glimmering in her eyes. I'm so happy you're okay, Raina. She managed a teary smile, and it was painful to see how much damage I'd done to my friends. I'd been self-centered ever since crossing paths with Eamon, and in the process, I'd hurt them all. And still, I'm waiting for him. Eamon was my reason, my whole life, my ruin. I wanted to walk this earth feeling whole, with him, while he wanted to live his life without me. Such a stupid, naive fool. The words floated in my mind, mocking me and my romantic ideations. It took one summer to tear them apart, and I was no better because of it. "Did you see him?" Isla asked, her tone tentative, almost as if she was scared to bring it up. "Yes." "And?" Phoenix demanded. "I don't understand why you had to go see him. What was so important?" I shrugged, dropping my eyes to the bed and training my focus on the finely threaded lines in the crisp white sheets. I never told my friends I was pregnant, and it was a moot point now. None of it mattered anyhow. I lost the baby. The lump in my throat suffocated, stealing my oxygen. "Did you talk to him?" Isla asked. I shook my head, unable to find my voice. "We should never have let you go there alone," she continued with a stern expression. "We should have been there with you." "We should have kicked that bastard's ass," Raven growled. "Smash that pretty face." Isla rolled her eyes. "As if you'd ever succeed. He's like a whole foot taller than you." Raven just flipped her off. "We've been going crazy," Athena chimed in. "You've been MIA for 3 fucking days. The scenarios that ran through our heads. Your papa and grandma tore the city apart." I swallowed, the backs of my eyes burning with tears that wouldn't come. "I'm sorry. Papa and the authorities kept getting wrong intel." Phoenix twisted her hands. "I thought you were dead. Isla asked her brother Maxim to help." "Unfortunately, he wasn't very useful," she muttered. "Ilias would have been, but I worried he'd demand I return home, thinking there's some kind of conspiracy going on." "We cried a fucking river," Raven croaked. "I wanted to find those 2 Leone brothers and murder them with my bare hands." "We would have all helped," Athena assured, smiling shakily. "I'm just glad you're alive." I caused so much stress, so much pain. "I don't know how to make it up to you," I said, clearing my throat. "I promise I'm done with him." My vow sent a hollow ache through my soul, but I ignored it. "I never meant to cause you so much pain." They all waved their hands. "All that matters is that we are together again," Phoenix assured. "But no more of this," Isla demanded softly. "My heart cannot bear it." "You have to get your shit together." Raven's words were harsh, but her gentle tone made up for it. "No man is worth your tears." I nodded wordlessly. "You'll be okay," Athena murmured softly. "Soon you won't even remember him. All this will be a distant memory." I raised my eyes and met their worried gazes. "Stop telling me that I'll be okay. I won't be. How could any sane person forget all this shit?" They lapsed into silence that lingered like the memories that swarmed my mind. It felt like I'd stumbled into a nightmare of my own creation, all my demons coming to haunt me. I wished to forget it all, but it was tattooed in my mind. The way he looked at me, the way he kissed me. It was all destroyed by the image of him, with someone else. I stared up at the white tiled ceiling, cursing myself for not being strong like Raven, or my sister. Any of my friends, really. Instead, my mind kept trying to conjure an excuse for his shitty behavior. He was a heartbreak waiting to happen. I just didn't think it would happen the way it did. My sister interrupted the strained moments suffocating us all. "Get some rest," Phoenix signed. "You look tired." She didn't need to ask me twice. "I am," I murmured. I drifted off again, secure in knowing that my family and friends were still here. As the arms of sleep pulled me under, the last thought on my mind was him. The boy with galaxies in his eyes.
6. Eamon. She gave me heaven, and I gave her hell. I never thought that slice of darkness in my soul would end up consumed by the cinnamon girl. It had been 3 weeks since I saw her last, unmoving and deathly pale in that hospital bed. I'd attempted to see her, but her family had a list of approved visitors. The nurse basically told me to go fuck myself. Not even my growling or groveling worked in this instance. It was pathetic. And in the grand scheme of things, I was thankful my brother wasn't around to see the state I was in. Besides, her grandma, Romero, and her friends were always there, taking turns watching over her. I hadn't heard from Romero, which left me to believe Diana Glasgow had told him nothing about seeing me in the hospital. Not to mention they'd put security and guards on the hospital floor. It was tight. It was good. It'd keep her safe. It was for the best. But I still came every day, lingering outside the hospital like a thief in the night. I had been watching her from the shadows and hacking into hospital records, tracking her progress. Today she'd be released. I hoped for one last glimpse of her. My phone buzzed, and I flicked a glance at it. It was my brother. "Where in the fuck are you? Need you at this Omerta meeting." I ignored it. I had the rest of my miserable life to deal with the underworld. I only had today for Raina. I leaned against the farthest tree in the lot, staring up at its naked branches. The leaf-covered ground trembled with the wind, and I pulled my coat tighter. It was an especially cold November afternoon, and the sun was already preparing to set. Thanksgiving was coming, and I guessed Raina would celebrate it with her family. The holiday made no sense to me, but Americans like to stuff their bellies and drown their thirst. I checked my watch and wondered for the umpteenth time why they hadn't released her first thing this morning. Dante was right. He'd seen through me all along. She was my obsession, and would likely be my damnation. There was a line between right and wrong. I crossed it. We crossed it, unknowingly, but that didn't absolve us of our sins. If I were a better man, a stronger man, I'd walk away and keep away. Raina had a family. They loved her. They'd take care of her and protect her. But I wasn't a better man. I was a selfish bastard who wanted another glimpse of her. One more time. To ensure she was all right. To see that halo around her head. I knew an angel was never meant to end up with a bitter prince. She'd called me her prince. She was wrong. I turned out to be her executioner. I'd almost cost her the ultimate price. I cost her. I swallowed, my Adam's apple squeezing painfully. My chest ached so fucking bad, I wanted to pound on it to ease some of the pressure. I suspected it wouldn't do me any good. Raina Romero was a part of me. She'd found a way inside my broken soul and lodged herself there so solidly no surgical knife would get her out. A glimmer caught my attention, and I inhaled a sharp breath. Her grandmother was the first to step outside, draped in gold and fur, like the old legend of Hollywood she was. Romero was next, wearing his Italian suit and black trench coat. I held my breath. There she is. A loud thud cracked in my chest, and my heart resumed beating, at least for now. Raina was being wheeled out of the hospital by her sister, a blanket covering her legs to protect her from the brisk air. A nurse tracked along on her left. Huddled into herself, Raina sat in the wheelchair, her face still pale, and her full lips a few shades lighter than I was used to. She looked far too fragile and weak. Even from here, I could see dark circles around those sapphires that no longer sparkled. A dark cloud seemed to hover above as she stared blankly, lost in who knew what nightmare. Phoenix stopped, and Raina turned to the nurse, her lips moving slowly. There wasn't a hint of a smile on her lips. I did that. God, I'd give anything to turn back time and change it all. I would have kept my distance, leaving her innocence intact. Now I'd pulled her into my darkness. I'd damaged her. And we were both left with nothing. And I had nobody else to blame. Raina shifted in the chair, wincing as she did. And I couldn't help my body as it drew forward, needing to help, to take care of her. Her grandmother, sister, and father all jumped to help her too. But whatever Raina uttered had them freezing on the spot. All but her sister, since she was deaf. But Phoenix must have gotten the message, because she stepped back. I watched Raina attempt to slowly stand. My hands fisting, I fought to keep my feet planted on the ground and out of sight. A pained expression marred her beautiful face, but she took a step, determination clear on her features. And it was then that I realized it. She'd move forward, but I'd remain in her shadow. She was no longer mine, but right or wrong, I'd forever be hers. I lifted my head and stared at the gray, grim sky. A week had gone by, and the only thing I'd succeeded at was stumbling through a pathetic, self-destructive drinking bender. I ignored my brother, my mother, and the whole fucking world. I looked around my Paris penthouse, tempted to set the entire building aflame. Every single inch of this apartment reminded me of her. The doorbell rang. I didn't bother answering. When I heard the soft click, I made a mental note to change all my locks. The soft footsteps against the hardwood told me my mother was approaching, and I braced myself.
You missed the Omerta meeting.
I took a swig of whatever cheap vodka I'd blindly purchased at the store down the street, my last resort. I doubt I missed anything important.
You can't ignore your duties.
I should have told her to stop talking, but I didn't have the energy for it.
Dante wouldn't tell me what's gotten into you, but I suspect it has something to do with her.
Save the concern for someone who cares and deserves it.
Your father will start noticing.
She scolded softly. I scoffed. Do I need to point out he's not my father? She flinched. I knew she hated the reminder. Join the fucking club. By the way, I ran into Diana Glasgow. Her expression turned guarded. She was very distraught, accusing our family, along with Tommaso Romero, of bringing misery to theirs. The woman wasn't wrong. It was the only reason that it kept me from strangling her right there and then. Silence stretched, tense like a rubber band ready to snap. Except my mother's next words were a blatant lie.
I don't know what she meant by that. They caused misery, not the other way around.
She lifted her chin and made her way to the large French window. And how is that?
Their family never belonged in the underworld. They don't understand the way things are among families in the Omerta, the importance of business relationships.
I twisted the yin and yang bracelet Raina gave me on the day I learned who my birth father was. It was meant as a beginning, yet it turned out to be an end. I didn't care that it was derived from Chinese culture. It only reminded me of her. And you do? My mother whirled around, her eyes flashing with anger.
I do. I grew up in this world. We belong in this world.
I was beginning to see things in my mother that I didn't like. Maybe it was my resentment, or maybe my eyes were finally being opened.
7. Raina. There were a few times over the last few weeks where I thought death was better than staying alive. It would have spared me the pain and the tears that came at night. In death, I would have found peace. Instead, I sat and stared at the gray landscape stretching for miles outside of Glasgow Castle. An hour outside of London, the countryside made you believe you were hundreds of miles away from the city and civilization. It was Thanksgiving, and Grandma decided we'd celebrate it in her husband's hometown in Cambridge. The estate was vast and had enough rooms to accommodate both our families and our friends. Of course, they didn't celebrate Thanksgiving in England, but considering the Duke of Glasgow's granddaughter was born in the States and followed the customs, it was a novelty for their entire family. I watched Livy and her husband play with the triplets, Lily, Lena, and Liam Caldwell. A normal life. That was what it looked like they had. My heart lurched. It had been so long since our family was normal, assuming we ever were. My mind drifted and a forgotten memory filtered in without permission. A loud bang sounded in the distance. I looked up from the Lego castle my sister and I were building. What was that? I signed, then remembered she couldn't hear. She just shrugged. I was just getting back to our Legos when I heard another loud bang, followed by shouts. Jumping to my feet, I ran to the living room window and peeked outside. There were 5 men out there, with guns. I darted back to the spot where Phoenix sat on the floor, staring at me with a confused look on her face. We have to find Mama. I stuck to signing, worried that someone might hear me outside. Just as I was about to pull her to her feet, Mama and Papa burst into the room.
You two, hurry.
Papa urged.
You'll go with your mother.
He didn't sign, leaving Phoenix to search my face for clues. I quickly translated, and then followed him toward the fireplace where he was patting down the stone sides. Mama was pale as a ghost, her fingers trembling as she pushed my curls out of my face.
Everything will be okay,
Papa said over his shoulder, but he didn't sound so sure. How can you even say that? Mama hissed, her face tight. This is not what I signed up for. This isn't a life for my daughters. The fireplace shifted and a dark hole appeared. I stood frozen. I didn't like tight spaces.
Get in there,
he ordered.
We'll talk about it later.
Papa grabbed my arm and pushed me inside. I squealed in pain as I fell to my knees, crawling into the corner and wrapping my arms around my legs. My heart was like a hummingbird, hurting my little chest. Bang. Strange voices trickled in, spurring Papa into a frenzy. He pushed Phoenix in next, who shook like a leaf, and I wrapped her into my arms, clutching her, whether for strength or to offer comfort, I was unsure. I looked up to see Papa holding something shiny and black. A gun, I realized. His eyes narrowed on Mama.
Love, you have to go in there.
Mama's curls bounced wildly as she shook her head. She was terrified of small spaces, too.
It will be okay. Just for a few minutes.
Tommaso, no. Her voice was a whimper, but it didn't seem to deter him. I swear to God, I'll leave you if you do this.
Would you rather die? Cost our daughters their lives?
They can't just kill us in our own home.
I'd rather not take the risk and be proven wrong.
He took her elbow and forced her in. I watched the scene unfold with wide eyes. She fought against him, but he was stronger. Then she was in the darkness with us. Before she could protest further, Papa swung the door shut. Mama's small fists hit the red brick. Tommaso! Her wrath vibrated in the small space. God damn it, Tommaso, open! Phoenix's soft whimpers filled the air, and it anchored me. It's okay, Mama, I whispered. I forced my hand to reach out to her and pat her on her back, just like she always soothed me when I had bad dreams. Papa is stronger than all the bad men. If only, she mumbled. I won't let anything happen to you two. Enveloped in the darkness, the three of us huddled together. My ears roared with my heartbeat. I couldn't sign. The space was too small and too dark, so I just held Phoenix closer to me. We were silent for a while, save for the sounds of our ragged breaths. When voices drew nearer and gunshots rang out again, my body shook harder and screams bubbled into my throat. Terrified of being found, my hand came to my mouth. More shouting. Bang, bang, bang! More shots. A loud giggle yanked me out of my memory and back to reality. I blinked away images of the darkness and the feeling that had gripped my throat. Maybe things had been bad even before Mama died. It would have made sense. If either Phoenix or I weren't Papa's, it meant Mama had sought happiness from somewhere or someone else. I didn't know. I wasn't sure of anything anymore. Chasing the confusing memory away, I focused on the family in front of me. There were so many things to be thankful for. Being alive, having an amazing sister, a family, best friends. Yet I couldn't muster an ounce of goodwill or holiday spirit. I rubbed my chest while my mind filled with different memories. This time of the boy I loved too much. Or maybe not enough. All I knew was that it had left me empty. My nights were filled with doubt and regret, desperate to relive happy moments only to end up at this same exact spot, staring at nothing, wishing I could disappear. I tapped my fingers against my thigh, restlessness itching at my skin. If I moved, someone would rush over and fuss over me, suffocating me. The hairs on the back of my neck rose, aware of a presence close by. I didn't shift, waiting for whoever it was to say something, or preferably nothing. My hands twisted the pendants hanging from my platinum chain. I should get rid of the one Eamon gifted me. But each time I went to take it off, I found myself unable to. Maybe I was a masochist, and this was my punishment.
Reina.
Papa's voice was low, soft, almost as if he thought a raised tone could destroy me. If only. Slipping the necklace under my shirt, I turned to see him shifting toward the empty chair. He sat down, his movements almost robotic. His usually immaculate hair was messed up and his jaw was set tight. His eyes were hollow, exhausted, more so than ever. And I guessed it wasn't just about his criminal dealings. He'd aged a lot in the last few months. Pots and silverware clanked, chatter and laughter soaked the air, and the sounds of footsteps and the triplets' toys made up the ordinary soundtrack of Thanksgiving. But nothing felt the same, because I wasn't the same.
Reina.
I blinked and found him staring at me. Sorry, Papa, I muttered. I was lost in thought. He watched me with a patience I wasn't accustomed to from him, not since Mama died.
Want to tell me what happened?
I shrugged. A car accident. A distant look crossed his features.
But there's something more, isn't there?
The way he watched me, I feared maybe the doctor had broken the rules of doctor-patient confidentiality and told him, but that would have likely made him furious. I wrapped my arms around myself, the cold creeping into my heart. What do you mean?
It's been too much,
he said, pursing his lips.
Ever since your mama died.
His voice cracked, just as it always did when he talked about her. I'm okay, I lied. Maybe if I said it over and over again, eventually I would be. Don't worry. The bruises are almost gone, and soon the cast will be off too. My heart ached, but I didn't think there was a cure for that.
Your professors contacted me,
he continued, and I knew it was coming.
You've missed a lot of classes this semester.
That was an understatement. I'd been so heartsick I could barely get out of bed. The accident didn't exactly help.
I talked to your professors. They'll let you catch up on assignments, even let you do them from home while you recover. You'll stay with Grandma until after the holidays, and then return to Paris.
I was grateful for the support of my family and friends, but I needed time. Space. I couldn't breathe. Not in Paris. Not here. Couldn't I go back to Malibu? I asked, twisting my fingers.
No, it's too dangerous.
I sighed and dropped my shoulders. Okay. You convince Grandma to let me stay in the opposite wing, though, away from everyone else. It was as close to getting some space as I would get. He stared at me with concern scrawled all over his face. His skin tone was yellowish, his cheeks gaunt. Papa, are you feeling okay? He reached out his big, wrinkly hand and cupped my cheek softly.
You look so much like your mama.
Then he shocked me by leaning over and pressing a kiss to my cheek.
Just focus on healing, for me and your sister. Once you're feeling better, you and I have to talk.
It didn't escape me that he didn't answer my question. Not at all. 8. Raina. My sister and friends all crowded around my bed. Thank God these medieval rooms were spacious. Otherwise, I'd suffer from lack of oxygen. Well, dinner was uneventful, Athena started. Did you expect drama? Isla mocked while signing, her eyes connecting with Phoenix for a brief second before flickering to me. Besides, that hottie Alexander would have murdered anyone who upset his wife or children. He's protective, I muttered. It's how it's supposed to be. In my experience, fathers are usually deadbeat, good-for-nothing men, Raven commented, sipping on her wine. Leave it to her to drag a bottle of $1,000 wine up because she wasn't ready for Thanksgiving to be over. Forget deadbeat fathers. Isla leaned forward, as if she had state secrets to share. Can we go back to the fact that Alexander is hot as fuck? I rolled my eyes. He's married too, in love with his wife. Raven shrugged. She doesn't want to bang him, just admire. She cleared her throat, giving Isla a pointed look. His assets. Right, because we always just look. I shot them a disapproving look. Don't you all want to go to bed? Athena took the bottle out of Raven's hand and gulped the wine straight from it. It's only 7. It's dark, I muttered under my breath. Papa said we'd talk, but never elaborated about what. It set my teeth on edge. Raina, you have to move on, Athena countered. We've done a piss-poor job of... I raised my palm, stopping her. Please don't go there. The 4 of them looked at me with such pity, I had to close my eyes. Just don't. I've moved on, so let's just pretend last summer never happened. Isla shook her head. Phoenix kept her expression blank, but I knew her enough to know she was worried. The same way I always worried about her. You just have to get laid by someone hotter and better. Clearly, Raven's suggestion was dumb because the last thing I needed was another man in my life. Maybe we can watch a movie, Phoenix suggested. A Christmas Story? I shrugged. It was my favorite Thanksgiving Christmas movie, but I wasn't in the mood for it. I wasn't in the mood for much of anything lately. Instead, I turned to my sister. Phoenix, do you remember when Papa shoved us in the dark hole behind the fireplace? If the tense silence that followed didn't tell me she did, her raised brows and flushed neck would. With this influx of memories lately, I wondered what else I was forgetting. Phoenix might have had a better memory because she was a little older than me when Mama died, but it didn't explain why I was suddenly uncovering these black holes from my childhood. I couldn't help attributing it to how chaotic life had been this past year. I'd have to remember to mention it during my next session with my therapist. Our friends just stared, waiting for one of us to explain, until Isla couldn't hold back her exasperated breath anymore. Okay, can you elaborate? Because I'm imagining all kinds of fucked up scenarios here. It was Raven who commented. I traced patterns on the blankets absent-mindedly and waited for Phoenix to answer. Papa was attacked the summer we went to Italy with our mother, she explained, signing calmly. He made us get into a safe room behind the fireplace. Who attacked him? Raven asked, her eyes like saucers. Phoenix shrugged, something flickering across her expression. Don't know. I narrowed my eyes on her. But you know something, I countered. She started to shake her head, but stopped when I said, Don't lie to me. Remember, I know all your tells." She let out a heavy sigh. "I really don't know who they were. All I know is that they look like—" She didn't finish, and my blood pressure spiked. Like they were Japanese. A round of gasps followed. "Do you think—" Athena cut herself off, her gaze flickering to the girls with a guilty expression. "What?" I demanded. It irked me to no end, feeling like an outsider, like I was the last to know. "Finish the sentence." Raven poured herself another generous amount of wine, gulping it down in one go. "We're all thinking maybe it has something to do with Eamon," she announced, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. God, just hearing his name sliced my heart. I shook my head. First, I couldn't even whisper his name. He and the family on his mother's side are not the only Japanese people on this planet. Secondly, he was a kid at the time. The incident from boarding school flickered in my mind. I hadn't quite forgotten about it, but I remembered it in vivid detail now. Eamon had saved me from his cousin then. I swallowed a lump in my throat, refusing to believe that Eamon's family would deliberately hurt mine. But if he hadn't been there that day all those years ago, I likely wouldn't have escaped. I didn't think this was the right time to share with the group, not when they already thought so low of Eamon. It was another secret, best left in the past. "His mother wasn't a kid," Isla pointed out, while everyone nodded their heads in agreement. "So you're saying his mother attacked us?" They were being ludicrous. Isla shrugged. "It seems far-fetched, but crazier things have happened in this world." "Yeah, like Japanese samurais becoming vampires." Huh. Athena must be on her fantasy kick. Judging by everyone's expressions, they thought so too. "Yeah, okay, that's improbable. I watched this movie—" "Not now, Athena," Raven scolded her, giving her a pointed look. I let out a heavy sigh. Too tired for this shit. "Just forget all that," Phoenix signed. "Focus on getting better and coming back to Paris." "We could all turn a blind eye, but there's some kind of connection there," Raven muttered. "Trust me, last time I opted not to see something, it bit me in the ass. Big time." "And what was that?" I asked, eager to focus on someone else's problems rather than think about my own. "Well, for starters, he was a red flag, and his gorgeous body was the pole." She waved her hands, drawing in the air, and whatever it was didn't look that attractive. At least not to me. Jeans that hugged that ass, holstered gun, slightly stalkerish obsessive behavior, red fucking flags that I refused to see, until a man was killed in front of my eyes. My eyebrows rose to my hairline. I knew for a fact this was the first time any of us were hearing this story. Maybe it was the wine loosening her lips. "Wow. Did you call the cops on him?" Isla questioned. "And testify against him?" Raven gave her an "are you fucking crazy" look. "No, I fucking bolted. Distance and no contact was the only solution. I can't fight an attractive man, murderer or not." Her priorities might be skewed, but it was hardly the time to point it out. "Okay, this is getting too dark for me," Athena announced, getting to her feet. "I'm going to bed." Her eyes found mine. "We miss you. The apartment isn't the same without you." "Yeah, especially because Raven is a walking mess," Isla remarked, her green eyes sparkling. "I got it. You're looking for a maid." Their eyes rolled in sync. "You take cleaning to a whole new level," Phoenix claimed, although not wrongfully. "Speaking of levels," Raven started, her tone tentative. "I haven't told you, but he who shall not be named commissioned me to paint him a replica of some painting that used to belong to his grandfather. The only thing I have to work with is a picture of the thing because he lost the original, or some shit like that." My heart drummed painfully in my chest, but I refused to dwell on it. Instead, I shrugged. "I hope you charged him an arm and a leg." "I did, but it still feels wrong to take money from him, all things considered." Raven was an amazing artist, and it was a shame the world hadn't discovered her yet. If Eamon Leone exposed her art to the world, then maybe there'd be some good to come out of all this. Isla slid off the bed, heading for the door. "I'm off to bed too. I'm beat. Those triplets are like Energizer bunnies. They need an off switch. Our friends all left, leaving me alone with my sister, who studied me with inquisitive eyes. I smiled, barely suppressing a yawn. I'm fine, I murmured, signing at the same time. I promise. You keep saying that, but I'm worried. I know, but it's better, I assured her. Each day is better. My bruises are almost completely gone. But the scars are there. Grandma offered me her plastic surgeon, but I said no. My hand clutched my necklace, tugging on it gently. It's not the scars I'm talking about. Our eyes locked and the lump in my throat doubled in size. Why did everyone insist I talk about it? It only made me feel like shit. The Leone brothers, she started, her hands hesitant. They are no good, and they're bound to fuck up everything they touch. I blinked in confusion. It wasn't a statement I expected to come from her. It almost sounded as if she'd experienced it firsthand. People break up every day. Her answer to my half-assed defense was a deadpan stare. It's not that, she retorted, bitterness crossing her features. She let out a heavy sigh before continuing. I don't want to talk about all of it. Just know that Dante Leone seduced me, and now he pretends to not even know me. My mouth formed an O shape and just about dropped to the floor, or at least the mattress. When? It was 2 years ago. Why? How? I couldn't come up with a coherent question. Why didn't you say anything? How did I not know about it? Pain flickered in her eyes. I was ashamed. I still am, for being so damn stupid. She pushed her dark brown hair out of her face, her fingers trembling. I thought he was so sweet, making an effort to talk to me, even learning ASL for me. Then boom, he disappeared, and I didn't see him until we ran into him again in Paris. There were 2 broken hearts in this room, I realized, each at the hand of the Leone brothers. However, my sister had nurtured hers a lot longer, and in my selfishness, I'd been too blind to see it. I pulled her into my arms and hugged her tightly. My eyes burned, tears threatening to break free, but I refused to let them fall. I blinked, chasing them away. We stayed like that for a while, hoping that with time, our hearts might mend. She pulled away, and our gazes met. Hers sparkled with unshed tears, just like mine. I should have told you before you got involved with Eamon, but you're such a romantic at heart, and I wanted it to be a fairy tale for you. Not this clusterfuck. Maybe the Leone brothers had used us. Maybe not. It could be that they were just broken beyond repair and we'd stepped in their paths. All I knew for sure was that Eamon would forever hold my heart, whether I liked it or not. Our love story was made for the big screen. So was our tragedy. I sensed that Phoenix felt the same way because I recognized the look in her eyes. 2 years had gone by, and she still hurt. Had she loved him? Did she still love him? I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, I rasped, my hands heavy, just like my heart. I should have been. She shrugged. You are always there for me, Reina. You're the younger sister, yet you've always protected me. It's my turn to protect you. I shook my head, my chest squeezing painfully. Mama hadn't been happy. Would the 2 of us find happiness? You and I are not so different. You have been keeping it all in, almost getting killed, forced it out into the light for you. It's better than leaving it festering inside. You need to let go, too, I whispered softly. Are you talking to anyone about your pain? Was I the only blind one? She gave me a soft smile. Our difference in age in high school felt bigger. Now, not so much. I know I can always come and talk to you. I nodded, feeling closer to her than ever. But promise to let go of him, for your sake. My instincts told me she was right. I should let go of Eamon Leone. Forget about him and pretend he never existed in my world. Not the boy who'd saved me from his father, and certainly not the man who I fell madly in love with. My body would heal, but my soul refused to. She leaned over and pressed a kiss on my cheek. Go to sleep. You look like hell. I smiled weakly. Talk about an ego booster. She padded barefoot out of the room. The door clicked softly behind her, followed only by her ghosts, leaving me alone with my own. Reaching for my new phone, I scrolled through the contacts, but his wasn't there. I had lost every piece of him. Forever.
9. Amen. Christmas Day. The day that wishes came true. All but mine. It had been a month since I saw her. A month in which I'd gotten barely any sleep. When I wasn't hunting the Brazilian cartel members, I stumbled in and out of a drunken haze. They were my only suspects, so I searched relentlessly. The ones I didn't kill off, I managed to push out of Europe and North America completely. I wouldn't be satisfied until every single one of them was dead. But deep down, I knew not even their deaths would be enough. Nothing would be enough. Hunting the Cortez cartel members and the resulting torture sessions became my only pastime. Digging through Romero's past with my mother took a back seat. Somehow it seemed nothing good came from that end, so I focused on the shit I could destroy, and that was those who'd hurt Reina. When it came to my mother, nothing made sense anymore. For one, her desire to get her hands on the document in Romero's possession contradicted her desire to keep her connection to Romero a secret. It was pointless to dig up the document between Ojisan and Romero now that I knew who my true father was, and we were keeping it a secret. It no longer mattered what Ojisan and Romero agreed to, because the secret would die with us. So I stopped searching for it, even though Dante hadn't. I washed my hands of fucking family drama and wallowed in pure mania in my quest for punishment. Except I couldn't punish the two main orchestrators of my destiny. My own mother and Reina's father. My only solution at the end of the day was alcohol. The only light in my life had been taken away from me. The world was upside down, and no amount of liquor or time seemed to tilt it upright for me. Fuck. It had been months since my mother dumped the news on me, and I still struggled with the truth. Emotions were a fucking nightmare. I shut them out, extinguished them, but the memories refused to leave. My penthouse in Paris became my tomb, my own personal prison. Every corner was full of her presence and her light. Some days, her scent lingered in the air, taunting me. On the rare occasions that sleep found me, I would dream of her. Soft arms wrapped around me, the scent of cinnamon and peace, the softness of her curls across my chest. I wanted to open my eyes and return the hug, feel her against me. But even in my sleep, I knew if I woke up, she would vanish. So I remained still, clinging to the ghost whose warm touch made life worth living. I never wanted to fucking wake up to a world where she wasn't part of my life. It terrified the fuck out of me to think I had years of this shitty life ahead of me. A bang on the door reached my ear. I ignored it. I wasn't in the mood for visitors, Christmas or not. Bang, bang, bang. Eamon, we know you're in there. Fuck. It was the last person on this planet I wanted to see. Now open the fuck up. I didn't move. I heard the click of a lock, then the door opened. I looked up to find my mother, brother, and father standing in front of me. 3 shadows darkened my world. I didn't move, seated in my armchair with a glass of scotch, staring in the direction of her apartment. Although I knew she wasn't there. She'd yet to come back to Paris. "What are you all gloomy about?" Father glowered. He'd taken to watching his tone with Dante and me, knowing he no longer held all the power. "Since you refused to show up for Christmas in your parents' home, we decided to crash your party." Crash away. I brought the glass to my mouth and took a sip.
Masuko, we always spend Christmas together.
I shrugged. It was never a joyous affair. Father would give us presents only to take them away, or teach us some stupid lesson that never made any sense but left scars on our bodies. "What's with the blood, Eamon?" Dante's voice had me glancing down at my shirt. I must have forgotten to clean up when I came home last night. I stood up and bypassed them all. But before I made it into my bedroom, my mother blocked my path. Her eyes were darker than ever before. She wore that fucking pink kimono, and it only served to remind me of what she'd taken away from me. That color belonged on Reina, and Reina alone. I couldn't stand to look at anyone wearing pink anymore. Not now. Not yet. "What is it?" Her lip trembled, and I knew I was being an ass, but I couldn't stop.
When was the last time you slept?
Hard to sleep when I have uninvited guests. She sighed, flicking a glance over her shoulder.
Masuko.
Please don't. There was nothing she could say that would make this right. My motivation and goals had gone out the window. All I could see was my bleak future. Even worse, I didn't give a fuck about that future. She sighed.
Take a shower and change into clean clothes. The staff is coming. We'll set up your place.
I sidestepped her and shut the door behind me, not bothering to answer. Of course, when I was out of the shower, towel wrapped around my waist, I found Dante sitting on a chair, his ankle crossed over his knee. "There he is," he drawled, his hand casually on the armrest. Contrary to his casual posture, there was a hard glint in his eyes. My jaw clenched. I wasn't in the mood for his shit today. "Get the fuck out of my room." "No." I ignored him and got dressed. Christmas Day didn't seem like a good time to beat up my brother. "How long do you plan on sulking?" I narrowed my eyes on him. "Is there something you want to say? If so, spit it the fuck out." His eyes softened, and it hit me all wrong. He didn't even know the truth about Reina and me, or that my father was the prick Romero. Fury lanced up my spine. Even after all these months, just the thought of Romero made me want to rage. From an early age, I always tried to take care of and protect my brother. Now it seemed our roles had reversed. I was staring at the version of him that seemed to have matured, while I had descended into madness. "I've known you all my life. I know when you're upset. What worries me is that I've never seen you this upset." His voice was too fucking gentle for my liking. My brother was the reckless one, losing his temper during his raging moments. I usually kept a cool head, and my emotions reined in. Until now, apparently. It only took a girl to tear my self-control down. "I remember when we were young, you refused to let anything, anyone, break you. Stubborn as a motherfucker. But now, since you got involved with her, I'm watching parts of you disappear, and I don't know what to make of it. Father used to randomly decide when it was time for his lessons. Dante hated them, and whenever he got wind of it, he'd want to run and hide in hopes of being spared. He'd make sure to come find me and drag me away with him too. I thought it was because he was scared to be in trouble alone. But now, I realized he was as protective of me as I was of him. But there was a major flaw in his protectiveness over me. There was nothing left of me to save. I couldn't breathe without her. I didn't exist without her. She was my beginning, middle, and end. If there's a point, you should probably get to it fast. He released a breath. I don't know what happened, but you cannot become this. He jutted his chin my way. Whatever this is, it's going to destroy you if you don't let it go. This violence spree won't help you. It seems to be helping you, I said, referencing his need to torture criminals to release his pent-up frustration. Something affected you, worse than any torture you've gone through. Any betrayal by your fucking cousin. But if you didn't let any of that fuck you up, you can't let anything else mess with your head either. Lovely therapy session, I deadpanned. Get your shit together, Eamon. You had a goal. We have a goal. Let's focus on that. My brother wasn't wrong. Dante? I headed out of my room, my hand just reaching the doorknob. Yes? Next time you break into my apartment, I'm going to break your fingers. But he was right. We needed to get back to building our empire.
10. Raina. It was the day after Christmas. I moved slowly through the dark castle. Everyone was asleep, while ghosts that had nothing to do with this place haunted me. The castle had been passed down through the Glasgow family for the past 7 centuries. Built in the 13th century, the place had gotten an upgrade, but it still had that medieval feel to it. Dark, damp hallways, scary dungeon-like basement. In the upper stories, like my bedroom suite, luxury was evident. Down below, whispers of torture and wrongdoing danced in the air. It made my skin crawl. And yet, each night I made my way down to it. Maybe it was my masochistic side coming out, or I was a glutton for punishment. Or maybe it just reflected the state of my mind and soul, because part of me wanted to lash out at the world. Instead, I kept it all in and released the anxiety and pain by torturing myself, hiding it from everyone. My thighs were proof of it. All the negative emotions, all the pain, seemed to get better when I cut myself. It had started with an accidental graze in the shower after Eamon broke up with me, and then it morphed into a need for release, one that only came with pushing the sharp metal into my skin. Finally, I made my way back to my drafty bedroom. Thick stone walls promised the privacy I craved with my restless, dream-filled nights featuring the man with dark hair and even darker eyes. It also helped that most of the occupied rooms were on the opposite wing of the castle. I opened the double French doors of my private balcony in this castle without a prince. The crisp December air swept through the room. Goosebumps rose on my skin, the thin nightgown barely providing any warmth. Sliding onto the cold stone floor, I pulled my knees to my chest and leaned against the centuries-old walls. I let my thoughts wander and memories torture. I knew I needed to move on, but I couldn't find the will for it. I told Grandma I needed more time to heal, to forget, to harden. The disapproval in her eyes told me she didn't agree with all this wallowing. She even gave me a lecture on how to move on, just like she had from every husband of hers. Men are like medieval conquerors, Raina, always searching for the next thing to drag down. You just have to ensure you're never their conquest. You are the queen. You reign over them. Obviously not, since I was used and discarded so easily, but I'd kept the words to myself. Tilting my face to the night sky, I stared at the darkness, picturing the sparkling stars that hid behind the clouds, reminding me of the man I was fiercely trying to forget. A deep, throbbing ache spread through my chest. Would it ever go away? The pain, the memories of him. I was desperate to forget, but not forgive. I would never forgive. My whole life had revolved one way or another around Eamon. Like a leaf in the wind, I let life lead me to him without questioning its purpose. Maybe I deserved everything that came my way. A stupid, naive girl with dreams and hearts in her eyes. I was so easily swept into Eamon's arms. In return, I got my heart broken. He smashed it into irreparable pieces, leaving behind destruction and permanent damage. My body ached when I finally stood up. The bruises from the car accident had faded, but a few scars on my thigh and shoulder blade remained. Grandma suggested cosmetic surgery, but I refused. I needed a reminder to never forgive. Leaving the doors open, I headed to the bathroom. Despite all the upgrades and amenities both the current and previous Duke of Glasgow implemented, the pipes shuddered when I turned on the shower. The water splashed against the Italian tile, and I discarded my nightgown and underwear. I caught my reflection in the mirror and stilled, staring at my body. Skin and bone, Papa had said. He wasn't far off. I'd lost weight. The skin under my eyes looked bruised, the color darker. My lips were cracked and pale. The only unchanged physical trait was my hair. The image of Eamon twisting a curly strand around his finger flashed in my mind, and my eyes fell to the scissors sitting in the basket. It took a fraction of a second for me to decide before I reached for them and brought them up to my collarbone. The sharp blades hovered in the air until... snip, snip, snip. By the end of it all, a pile of blonde curls covered the floor and my head felt lighter, but my heart still didn't. I turned my back to the mirror and stepped into the shower, letting the lukewarm water drip down my body. I washed up quickly, then dressed before heading downstairs. The castle was still dark, but I could hear soft footsteps somewhere in the distance. Following the smell of coffee, I turned the corner at the end of the hallway. I stepped into the kitchen to find Grandma and Alexander, Livy's husband. Livy was the Duke of Glasgow's granddaughter. Long story, but she grew up in the States too, and she never knew her family heritage until she got involved with her now husband. My hip slammed into the counter and I grunted in pain. 2 sets of eyes. "Raina!" A horrified gasp left my grandmother, matching the look in her eyes. "What have you done to your hair?" Clearly, she didn't like my new hairdo. Alexander didn't look remotely as flabbergasted, although I had yet to see him frazzled at all. Nothing seemed to faze that man. I brought my hand up to my head, combing my fingers through the strands. "Haircut," I muttered. Her mouth formed an O shape, and she slumped back against the chair. Guilt pierced my chest, noticing black circles under her eyes that not even her cosmetic injections could hide. She didn't need extra worries. I forced a smile on my lips, ignoring how unnatural it felt. I would convince her I was okay, so she could get back to her life. "It was a silly experiment. I'll have a hairdresser fix it when I'm back home." Alexander stood up, pulling out the chair for me like the perfect gentleman he was. I lowered myself on it, flashing him a grateful smile. "Thanks," I murmured.
"How did you sleep?"
he asked, although I suspected he knew. He'd caught me roaming the castle in the dark quite a few times. He always helped Livy when the triplets woke in the night. Averting my eyes, I answered, "Good, thanks." It was easy to spot the lie, so I decided pivoting the topic away from me might help. "You?"
"Liam's been up twice so far, rousing his sisters. The crankiness will be astronomical today."
Silence lingered, since I knew zero about children, despite almost having one. The familiar anxiety reared its head, tearing through my chest and stealing my breath straight from my lungs. My throat tightened and panic bit at my veins, leaving nothing but disaster in its wake. I squeezed my eyes closed, waiting for the knot in my chest to loosen. Breathe in, breathe out. Meditate for goodness sake. The dark was closing in. A baby.
"If something comes of it, we'll handle it together,"
he'd said. Obviously, he hadn't meant it. Any of it. Because he left me to deal with it all alone. God, I was so stupid, so fucking irresponsible. My eyes lifted and I found my grandmother staring at me, unspoken tragedy lingering in the air. Maybe our family was wrapped up in it, and it took going through my own to finally understand. Shouldn't the kids be sleeping through the night at this point? I asked, the first thing that came to mind as the kitchen started to spin around me. He shrugged, seemingly oblivious to the emotion swirling in my chest.
They do when they're home. They're convinced this castle is haunted or possessed by an evil spirit, so Liam takes it upon himself to keep his sisters safe.
He chuckled to himself. I looked at my grandmother, and her eyes softened around the corners. I didn't want her pity, but it felt nice to know she was there in silent support. As Alexander droned on and on about where his children were at developmentally and how exhausting it all was, I had to remind myself it wasn't his fault. He couldn't know that my stay at the hospital had left me with more than just a few stitches. My friends and sister knew about the physical injuries. They didn't know about the miscarriage. At least I didn't think so, since they never brought it up. So it left me struggling with all of it, alone. Grandma hinted she knew, but she never outright brought it up, so it left me wondering. Alexander was staring at me now, as though waiting for a response. I hadn't heard the question. I shook my head and decided to go with humor. Liam is right. This place is haunted, and you know it. Nobody should live here but the ghosts. His lip curled up in amusement.
I think you're right,
he agreed. And just like that, my pulse settled and I anchored myself to the now. Grandma scoffed lightly and let out a long exhale. I wonder if she'd seen my world tilting and was happy to move away from talking about the children. If I remember, Alexander, you bought your wife a castle in Scotland, and those have even more ghosts. She was being facetious, but the fact remained. She could claim until she was blue in the face that she loved it here, but I knew better. She appreciated modern-style luxury, not this old money castle. I scoffed. Busted. He just shrugged.
I was trying to win my wife back, and that castle has nothing on this one. This one dates back to the Golden Age.
I rolled my eyes. If you start a history lesson, I'm going to barf.
Well, let's fill up your stomach first with some food and coffee,
he offered. I really needed to talk with Livy. Her taste in men was questionable. I turned to my grandmother and steeled my spine. Not to change the subject, but I was thinking. I locked eyes with her, hoping she'd take my next words seriously. I'm all healed up. I'm ready to go back to Paris. Back to school. Her shoulders tensed. No need to rush. There's still another few weeks before you are due back. I swallowed. Truthfully, I didn't want to be in the same city as Eamon, but the odds of crossing paths with him were slim, and I was willing to take my chances. It's hardly rushing. I've been here for weeks now. So what's another few weeks? She reasoned. And I wondered if she'd picked up on more of my near-panic attack earlier than she'd let on. You might as well stay here through the second week of January, and then go back for the spring semester. I shook my head. No, the sooner I'm back, the better it will be. By the press of her lips, Grandma clearly disagreed, but said nothing else. When? There's an afternoon trip on the Eurostar leaving from London. I just need a ride to St. Pancras Station. A heartbeat passed. Fine. I'll take you. King's Cross bustled with life in central London. Buses coming and going, people rushing in and out of the station, eager to get to their destinations. The engine of Grandma's Rolls-Royce hummed softly as we sat in the back seat, the driver having stepped out to give us privacy. The silence stretched. I'd rather just get out of the car, but knowing my grandmother, she'd follow me all the way to the train and then hop on it so she could give me a piece of her mind. I sighed. My train leaves in 45 minutes, Grandma. I turned my head to meet her gaze. Whatever you have to say, just spill it. I won't fall apart. She took my hand, petting it gently. I'm worried about you. I swallowed, unable to drag a deep enough breath to say something, anything. Your physical injuries are healing, but the pain still lingers in your eyes. You need to talk about it, Raina. Nothing good comes out of avoidance. Trust me. I'm talking from experience. I saw it in your mama, Phoenix, and now you. I wanted to grab onto her and hold her tight like she was my raft at sea. She had been our support since Mama's death, and I knew nothing else. Yet I remained immobile, shadows casting their forms all around us and whispering things I didn't understand. Phoenix? Mama? Even Grandma? She said we all suffered a tragedy, and yet I kept wallowing in mine. It wasn't right. I'm fine, I repeated, sounding like a broken record, but I didn't know what else to say. You keep saying that, and it only tells me that you're not fine, she countered. Do you want to talk about it? I don't, I rasped. I want to forget it and move on. I didn't tell your papa about the pregnancy, nor about the boy. I stiffened. Your sister and the girls don't know either. Tears blurred my vision, burning the backs of my eyes, my heart, and my soul, but I refused to let them fall. I'm 18. What happened to doctor-patient confidentiality? Then her words sunk in. She said something about a boy? The hope in that single word rang like a national anthem. Another flicker of something soft in her eyes, and tension rolled through me. I didn't think I could handle talking about him just yet. Obviously, a boy got you pregnant. Relief washed over me, and I refused to let him and the memories we shared together haunt me for the rest of my days. So I decided I wouldn't speak his name. Not to her. Not to my friends. Not to my papa. You can tell me, she said softly, but a hint of vehemence showed through. Grandma was a dragon when it came to protecting my sister and me. Well, it could have been an immaculate conception sort of deal, I muttered under my breath. I should have known this conversation was coming. She'd requested my charts, and I hadn't been in the right frame of mind to ask the doctors to withhold sensitive information. Raina, don't. Her tone told me she was at her wit's end. Just don't. I brought my free hand to my neck and started twisting my necklace, nervously. Her eyes fell to it. Still wearing that thing, huh? Yes, I mumbled. It reminds me of Mama. She nodded, but something about the look in her eyes was unsettling. I opened my mouth to say something, but before I could get a word out, images slammed into my brain. Old, rusty memories. Sadness squeezed my chest as I stared across the water. It was murky today, the gray sky crying right along with us at the loss of Mama. Phoenix was in her room, but it didn't matter. I wanted to be alone anyway. I threw little pebbles in the water and twisted the necklace Grandma clipped around my neck when I was getting dressed earlier. I told her Mama gave it to me when she was taking a red bath. Her eyes turned into blue stones and scared me a little, but then she smiled. The fear evaporated, but sadness remained. My mouth turned down at the corners. There would be no more Mama. I didn't want to stay with Papa. I didn't know why. Maybe Phoenix and I could run away together and be like Shirley Temple in her movies. We'd have our own adventures. Shuffling footsteps pulled me out of my thoughts, and I turned around to find Papa towering over me. He was angry. Very angry. His eyes fell to my necklace, and his gold ring caught the light before it connected with my cheek. It burned, and I stumbled backward. I trembled like a leaf, my hands cradling my stinging cheek. Papa! He gripped the chain at my throat, yanking on the necklace.
Where did you get that?
His smile was mean and ugly. It terrified me.
Nosy fucking kids.
I suddenly didn't like Papa at all. I wanted to get far, far away from him. What are you doing, Tommaso? Grandma's voice was like a whip, startling both of us. My gaze darted her way in a plea for help, but her eyes weren't on me. They were on Papa, and they were violent.
Raina took something that doesn't belong to her.
Grandma came between us, and I buried my face into her hip. Her hand wrapped around me and patted me gently, just like Mama used to do. Grace gave it to her. Papa took a step forward, towering over us, but Grandma stood her ground. The night she died, Raina saw her in the tub as she was bleeding out. Grace gave her the necklace. His expression paled. She's keeping it, Tommaso. I was too scared to move, too scared to breathe. My eyes widened as my chest tightened. I had never felt such pain. Not when I fell from the tree, not when I hit my head and fell in the pool. I brought my hand to my chest and tapped it, hoping to loosen it so I could inhale some air. I needed my lungs to expand and be normal again. Instead, it suffocated me, burning in my throat, until the world turned black. It was my first panic attack. Unfortunately, not the last, but the next morning Grandma had Phoenix and me packed, ready to move back to California. I was jolted back to reality at the sound of the car door clicking open and Grandma's driver's words as he leaned in to address her.
"The train will be departing soon. We will take Raina's bags ahead and meet you there."
I gathered my things, still dazed from my flashback. How could I have forgotten all this? My stomach coiled, but I pushed it down. There was no sense getting upset over it now. Instead, I intended to get some answers. Why did Papa get so upset about this necklace? That day he found me with it? I questioned, gesturing to the pendants hanging from my neck. A heartbeat passed. The reminder is too painful for him. I lowered my eyes to it. The weird part was that I never remembered seeing Mama wearing it. The only time I'd ever seen her with it was the night she died. The familiar dull ache pulsed in my chest. Why did he get so mad, though? He hit me. I was only 6, and he slapped me across my cheek. My lip quivered, but still, I pushed through. Just days after watching my mother be buried. She shrugged, seemingly nonchalant, but she couldn't hide the tension in her brow. He's sensitive about his things. Her eyes flickered to the necklace again. What is the second pendant? Her question felt layered. Why couldn't I get rid of the stupid pendant? I thought it would match Mama's. I lied. She studied me in that unnerving way that could expose all my secrets. I kept my expression blank. If I was to survive this and get my independence back, I would have to learn to hide all my emotions. I just needed to survive this talk first. Do I need to have yet another talk with you about protection? Nothing about her question surprised me, and sweat collected at the nape of my neck in response. Where is that driver of hers? It shouldn't take that long to drop off my luggage. No. She shook her head and tisked. I just don't understand. Didn't I teach you girls to always be safe? You did. My tone was resigned, knowing there was no escaping this. It has been a long time coming. 2 months, to be exact. This boy. The words, "who got you pregnant," lingered unspoken in the air. Who is he? Nobody important? Liar, my heart whispered. I made a mistake, Grandma. One I won't repeat. She tilted her head. I believe you won't repeat that mistake, but I don't believe the first part of your answer. Unsure how to answer that, I remained silent. Considering you never showed any interest in boys until now, I suspect he's very important. So important that I let him shatter my heart blindly, split it open and watch it bleed. Not anymore, I breathed, lowering my head. He's just someone I'll tell my future daughter about when she's crying over a boy. He will be my warning to my kids one day, just like you warned us about your husbands when they broke your heart. Jesus Christ, she muttered. We stared at each other, neither of us willing to say more. Phoenix and I were stubborn, but we didn't get it from Papa. Finally, Grandma shook her head. You know, Raina, you could give your Papa or me his name and we could make him pay. I released a sound from the back of my throat. This was by far the most scandalous thing my grandmother had ever said. Yes, I wanted to hurt Eamon, but not that way. Not in the way that would cost him his life. So I just shook my head. Like I said, it was a fling. It won't happen again. My grandmother patted my hand, the same one she refused to let go of. I think your Papa will talk to you soon about your future. I stiffened, unsure what she meant by that. I don't exactly agree with it, she continued, but I expect he'll want to arrange a marriage for you. The thought of being married to anyone made my stomach roil. What if I want to marry for love? My heart ached, knowing that the love I had for Eamon was a once-in-a-lifetime love. Even after this heartbreak that almost killed you? I let out a strangled laugh. Let's not exaggerate. She gave me a knowing look, but she didn't call me out on it. Bottom line, Raina, you can't be making mistakes like that. A distant look crossed her features. I promised your mother I'd protect you and keep you out of your papa's world as much as I could. But with this latest event, I'm out of options. I can't protect you from the men who are after your father. After my father? It was a car accident, I pointed out. Could have happened anywhere, to anyone. Her hand squeezed mine. No, it wasn't an accident, Raina. Your papa learned that you were targeted. I flinched. What? I whispered, shock rolling through me. My heart was beating so loud I could barely hear my own voice. Your papa made a stupid, reckless deal with one of those criminals, and you've been on their radar ever since. My mind was such a mess of emotions, I didn't know how to take it. Your papa's business with the underworld is the worst thing that ever happened to our family. My shoulders tensed and my stomach churned. The underworld has been tearing us apart ever since your mama ran into Angelo Leone and Tommaso Romero. 11. Raina. I arrived at the Gare du Nord train station in the heart of Paris 2 hours later, my ears still ringing with Grandma's words. Everyone rushed off the train while I waited for the crowd to disperse, then grabbed my own bag and made my way out. My feet barely touched the ground of the platform when I heard my name.
Raina.
I whirled around, coming face to face with my papa. What are you doing here? He shook his head.
Is that any way to greet your old man?
Sorry. I leaned over and pecked his cheek while my grandmother's words whirled in my mind. Did she call him? I hadn't told anyone I decided to return to Paris, so she must have. I just didn't expect you. He grabbed my bag out of my hands and hooked one arm around my shoulder.
I want to talk to you, and this felt like the best way to get you alone.
My steps faltered, and I peered at him under my lashes. What about?
The future.
My chest twisted, but I didn't say anything else. We made our way out of the station and toward Paris Nord Café. The sun was out, but the air in December was bitter and cold, chasing a shiver down my spine. Tightening my French wool waistcoat, we entered the café and asked for a seat by the window.
Your French is excellent,
Papa commended once we were seated. The corners of my lips barely tipped. It kind of comes with the territory, living in Paris and all. He nodded.
You want to stay in Paris?
I stilled for a moment before answering. I just came back, so I think that's your answer. Letting out a sigh, he pushed his hand through his rapidly thinning and graying hair. It was probably the result of stress and worry.
Ever thought about living in Italy?
He questioned.
After all, it's the epicenter for music and fashion.
No. The answer came without delay or doubt in my mind.
Why not?
I met Papa's gaze head on. Well, for starters, neither Phoenix nor I speak a lick of Italian.
You could learn.
I shook my head. We built a life here with our friends. His jaw tightened.
The same ones who left you roaming the streets alone.
I jutted my chin. Now that's not fair. We've been living here for 2 years, and we all go places alone. It wasn't the middle of the night.
You're the youngest in the group, Raina.
Then why did I feel like the oldest one? Why did I feel so damn tired? The heavy weight pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe, but I hid my panic and emotions behind a mask. I've been the youngest since the get-go. It's never been a problem before. I paused when we were interrupted by the waiter. We ordered from the menu, and once he left, I continued. This can't be the reason you came to pick me up at the station, Papa. Want to tell me what's going on?
Do you remember anything about the accident?
My eyes darted out the window, watching Parisians rush through the streets, eager to get to their destinations and escape the cold. Even that looked romantic in this city, except the whole romance angle had kind of lost its charm. No. It was raining. One moment I was crossing the street, the next, headlights. Grandma's words echoed in my brain. Did you learn something?
What did Grandma tell you?
I shrugged. Enough to make me wonder, not enough to know any specifics. Let him unpack that.
I believe some old associates of mine were trying to send a message to me.
A shudder rolled down my spine, ominous thoughts piercing my skull.
I tried finding the driver, but he died under mysterious circumstances. His body washed up days after you were admitted.
Is it dangerous for Phoenix and our friends to remain here? I wouldn't be able to forgive myself if anything happened to them on my or Papa's account.
I don't think so, but I'm going to put some extra security in place.
My brows shot up. He knew very well none of us appreciated bodyguards.
No, not bodyguards. But I'll have some friends from...
He searched for the right word.
My organization. Ensure that none of the men from that organization have a presence in town.
From the Omerta? The question burned on my tongue, but I knew he'd shut down the moment I uttered the word. What organization did you piss off? I asked calmly.
Brazilian cartel. And the Yakuza.
Wow, I muttered, surprised that he answered me, and stared at him in shock. What did you do to piss them off so badly? He waved his hand.
Lost their shipment, and then tried to arrange a marriage.
Alert shot through me, and I gulped with fear. My grandmother's words were repeating themselves over and over again. Arrange a marriage, I repeated, my mouth suddenly dry.
That's off the table,
he declared.
With them, anyhow.
I didn't know whether laughing or crying would be more appropriate here. He discussed the arrangement like the weather, like it was nothing, just another daily occurrence. So you're still considering it? I croaked. His eyes bore into mine.
I have to. For both your and Phoenix's safety.
A frustrated breath left me. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe we would be safe if you weren't part of that world? The atmosphere quickly turned ominous, the silence suffocating and feeding my rebellious spirit. I watched him take a sip of his cappuccino, the little cup looking ridiculous in his large hands. Then a thought occurred to me. He'd killed people with those hands. Or he'd at least made someone else do it for him. When I was a little girl, I thought he was just an enigma, not understanding enough that he wasn't like other fathers, but now it was hard to remain ignorant of his profession. My mind darted back to the party at that dark but magical castle that seemed to have started our doom. Papa? My voice was tentative, cautious, but it was time I started demanding answers. That summer we spent in Italy with Mama? Surprise flickered across his expression. We never talked about the past. What happened? For a long moment he remained quiet, and just when I was starting to think he would refuse to answer, his voice penetrated the small space between us.
A lot of things happened that summer, Rena.
He answered tiredly.
What exactly are you referring to?
My fingers curled into fists, but I straightened my spine. I was sick and tired of ghosts lurking in the corners of my mind. I never saw you and Mama argue until then. I pushed a short curl off my forehead. Papa followed the motion, resignation in his eyes. He hadn't commented on my new hairdo, not that I expected him to, but it was probably the latest reminder of all the shit that had gone wrong lately. Then all you did was fight. Did she hate it in Italy that much?
She did hate it there.
His throat bobbed, although his expression remained unmoved.
If I could go back, I would have kept you all in California.
Why? His eyes darted to the window, but I pressed on. Is it because you learned one of us isn't yours? That got his attention. His eyes narrowed on me, and for the first time in my life, I saw the mobster. Not my father, not a man, but a mobster who could kill someone.
Where did you hear that?
I gulped, my nails digging deeper into my skin. I heard you and Mama arguing one night. I didn't understand the words, and then I forgot all about it. Until recently. He didn't speak, but he didn't have to. I could see the truth on his face. Which one of us is not yours?
I don't know.
Shock zipped through me, and I had to blink several times to clear it. There was no confusion, though. I'd heard him right. Why don't you know? I asked. Father should know, right?
Grace refused to disclose it.
I felt like we were finally getting somewhere, so I held my breath and let him continue.
And when she died, I realized your mama was right. I love you and your sister equally. You are both mine. I watched you come into this world, and learning whose DNA you shared seemed pointless.
He pushed his hand through his hair again, leaving it more disheveled.
Or maybe I couldn't handle learning that truth. So I let it go. Either way, I wasn't going to risk resentment toward either one of you. You're both my daughters, and I'll die with that.
I understood his words, but then I didn't. It made me appreciate him more, knowing that he didn't want to risk loving one of us less than the other, but burying your head in the sand seemed worse. It festered things inside you, building slowly but surely until it erupted. Do you know who? I couldn't utter the words, but he understood the meaning behind it. Papa shook his head.
That I would kill to know,
he admitted.
I'd give anything to slice him to pieces for touching something that wasn't his.
That's dark, I muttered, and scary as shit. The silence fell, feeding both of our ghosts. It was clear that he had just as many, if not more, than me. My hand trembled as I reached for my cup of coffee, so I opted to just smooth my palm over the tablecloth. I couldn't risk spilling the liquid all over. The Japanese who attacked the villa in Italy. I leaned back against the chair, bringing both my hands into my lap.
The Yakuza,
he supplied helpfully. Jesus Christ, he was really deep into this gangster shit. Why did they attack? A dark expression filtered into Papa's eyes.
You have a lot of questions today, Reina.
Considering I almost died because of some deal you made, I deserve the answers. The mere idea should make me shake with fear. It didn't. Maybe I was too numb to process it all at this point. And if you want me to agree to any kind of marriage arrangement, I want to go in with eyes wide open. He nodded somberly.
Fair enough.
He reached over, stroking my cheek affectionately.
You are so strong. Much stronger than your mama was. Probably stronger than me, too.
I let out a bitter laugh. Somehow I doubt it.
You are, Reina. When you were born, your mama said you'd be a queen one day. It's the only Italian thing she loved. Your name.
The backs of my eyes burned. She probably liked Italian fashion, too. He shook his head, smiling softly.
She even refused to wear that.
I reached for his hand that still lingered on my cheek and took it between both of mine. Tell me about that summer. Please, Papa. A resigned sigh left him.
I'm afraid there isn't much to tell. Aside from doing some business with the Yakuza, I even had a...
He paused for a moment before he continued.
I had a mutually beneficial relationship with one of its members, but their demands got crazy and risked more lives. When I met your mother, I cut all ties with that person. That summer, they wanted to make me pay for loving your mother, for having you and Phoenix, for starting a family.
That doesn't make any sense, I blurted out, confusion written all over my face. Why would they be upset about that?
Power and greed are important factors in any decision anyone makes in the underworld.
I frowned at that statement, not understanding fully.
It's what drives people to kill, lie, and cheat. Remember that, Reina. It could be what keeps you and your sister alive one day.
Does it apply to you? I rolled the question around on my tongue, but I didn't want to anger him. I needed answers to understand what happened to Mama, although so far all I was getting out of our conversation was more questions. Why did Mama kill herself? It was the first time any of us had brought up her suicide. Reflecting back to that night, I saw Mama bleed out in the tub. I couldn't help but note the irony. She sliced her wrists to end her life. I was slicing myself in an attempt to release my anxiety and pain. Maybe she was looking for a way out, too. The world was left to believe she died in a tragic way. It was a half-truth. She found a way out and left us all to deal with the ghosts. I watched in amazement as Papa's expression hardened, and I knew our conversation was over. I wouldn't get anything else out of him.
Her death was a tragedy. Nothing more, nothing less.
The urge to push flared up. Our family would forever remain broken if nobody gave us the truth.
Now, back to the arranged marriage.
I shot to my feet and cut him off. If it protects Phoenix, I'll do it. But I want to have a say in it. Agreed?
Agreed.
After all, love was no longer a card in my deck. So did it really matter who I married? 12. Raina. New Year's Eve. 5 days later, Grandma's and Papa's words seemed like a distant memory, but they lingered in the corners of my mind. They must have left a bigger impression on me than I was willing to admit, because when Phoenix and the girls decided to head out to a party, my skin got clammy and my breathing heavier. The spot swimming in my vision was my final confirmation. I had to lock myself in our apartment bathroom and resort to breathing exercises and meditation until I pulled myself out of it. Raina, are you okay? Isla's voice came through the closed door. I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out. The unwelcome anxiety had left me speechless. Literally. I found myself fighting the panic, inhaling a deep breath, holding, then slowly exhaling. I promised Grandma I wouldn't worry, Phoenix. I promised Grandma I'd keep my shit together. I couldn't blow it in my first week back. Breathe, Raina. My eyes fell to the counter, searching for something to focus on. Anything. I yanked open a drawer and curled my fingers around a new razor blade. It was like I was watching myself peel back its plastic cover, detached from the present completely. A part of me was horrified. The other part, the wrong part, craved the pain. I changed since Eamon broke my heart. Slowly but surely, the darkness smothered me, craving pain to release this overwhelming ache inside me. I slid onto the tiled floor, pulling up my loose pajama pants to my upper thighs, the scars staring back at me accusingly. I pressed the blade against my thigh until a drop of crimson appeared on my milky skin. Another push and I released a hiss at the blade's sharp bite. The physical pain matched the one in my chest until physical pain overwhelmed the one lingering inside. The pressure on my chest lifted and my inhales came in easier with each flick of the blade. Bang, bang, bang. I flinched. Raina, if you don't answer, I swear I'm breaking down the door. I shot to my feet, flushed the toilet, then turned to the sink. Give me a second. Rinsing off the blade, I opened a drawer and shoved the blade into the little compartment I hid them in. I wiped the blood from my thigh and found a Band-Aid in another drawer, then pulled the leg of my pajama pants down to cover it up. Raina, we all have to get ready for the party, Athena said softly. We want to look good, too. I opened the door and came face to face with the four of them. Are you okay? Phoenix signed. You're worrying me. I thought you were getting ready, Raven grumbled. You've been in here for an hour. Had I? My legs shook. The burning sting of my flesh was a fresh reminder of how fucked up I'd become. But despite it all, I forced a cheery smile onto my face. It was easier to hide behind it. I'm not going, I said, stretching my arms up with a yawn. I'm too tired. But you should all go. I cut Raven off. Just promise me you'll stick together and be safe. I can stay, Phoenix offered. I gave her my most stern look. I don't need a babysitter. We're worried about you, Athena muttered. I rolled my eyes, ignoring the tightness in my chest. You can't be with me 24/7. Besides, I'll be here when you get back. Just go to the party and have a good time. If you continue to smother me, I'll have to find myself a studio apartment just to get space from you. I nudged Phoenix, my eyes softening. I'd darkened enough holidays in the past few months. They deserved a night out. I got the girls out and finally had the apartment to myself. Restlessness itched beneath my skin, so I started scrubbing and cleaning, even rearranging the furniture. So the new year can start off right, I grunted as I pushed the couch around so it'd face the window and its city view. The screeching of the wood sounded like nails on a chalkboard, but I powered through it, gritting my teeth. I was nothing if not determined. It took me a few hours, but with an hour to spare before midnight, the apartment was spotless. I was just about to get in the shower and get some much-needed rest when a knock on the door stopped me. I blew a sweaty curl from my face and wiped my hands on my pajama pants. I hoped it wasn't my nosy neighbor from the floor below, coming up to grumble about the noise I'd been making. Determined to end the year right, I opened the door, smiling brightly. It slipped off my face like ice on a hot summer day when I saw who stood in front of me. Dark, towering, scary. I stared at the face of Angelo Leone. I hesitated a second too long before reacting. I went to slam the door in his face, but he blocked it with his shiny Italian shoe. Angelo Leone was as terrifying as he'd been 12 years ago.
Miss Reina, isn't it?
My back teeth clenched, refusing to answer.
Let's have a little chat, shall we?
He shoved the door open with surprising strength, and I stumbled backward at the force of it. The door shut behind him, leaving us both trapped in the small apartment entryway. He was blocking my only way out. I mentally slapped myself for being so stupid. It was self-defense 101. My friends will be back soon, I hissed.
And I care why?
He demanded, as he glared down at me, the whites around his cold blue eyes completely bloodshot.
We have something to discuss. Where is your sister?
Surprise washed over me at his request. Why would he need my sister? But then my grandmother's words filtered in. The underworld has been tearing us apart ever since your mama ran into Angelo Leone. Squaring my shoulders with all the foolish bravery I could muster, I spat, "None of your fucking business." Shit, now what? It was too late to turn back now. Get lost before I have you thrown out. The stench of alcohol from his breath invaded my senses.
You and I will talk.
I have nothing to say to you. I attempted to keep my cool, but my voice trembled. If only I wasn't alone in the apartment. Now leave, Mr. Leone. He let out an ugly laugh.
So you know who I am.
It appeared he was too drunk to remember the harsh words he'd spoken to us in his home all those years ago. Obviously. My eyes darted around. Maybe I can invite him into the living room and bolt for the door. The man was drunk, so it couldn't be hard to escape him. Please. I pointed to the living room. Let's get comfortable in here. Would you like anything to drink? Water, perhaps? I sidestepped his huge frame with the intention of making my way into the kitchen and then running for the door as soon as he sat himself on the couch. What was that saying about best laid plans? Well, this one backfired. Big fucking time. My heart sank as he trailed behind me, my attempt at keeping my wits sunk with each step I took into the kitchen. My heart pounded in my throat and I forgot what I was doing. Ah, yes, glass of water. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me retrieve a glass and fill it with water. I handed it to him, hoping he wouldn't notice the tremor in my hands.
You look like your mother.
The offhand remark had my heart tripping over itself. So I've been told, I muttered. When he didn't make any move to take the glass, I lowered it onto the counter. My fingers curled into my palms, noting his bulky figure blocking my exit. How was it possible for someone like him to father someone like Eamon, even Dante? Cruelty steamed from his every pore. Did you know her? I didn't know why I asked, but the words were out in the world now, and there was no taking them back.
I did. Very well.
I couldn't seem to get enough air into my lungs. My stomach lurched and the memory of my parents' argument rushed to my mind.
I knew her.
I blinked, surprise washing over me. I stared at him, waiting for some explanation as a long moment of stretched silence passed. I couldn't stop the beads of sweat from rolling down my back despite the draft in the apartment. How well? I heard myself ask, although I didn't think I was ready to hear the answer. The memory of our visit flickered in my mind. I remembered my mother's lips thinning in displeasure when this man spoke to her. I met his cold, dark stare, anger in my chest bubbling over. How well did you know her? He smiled, an ugly, vicious smile. It wasn't a good combination with his intoxicated state.
Very well.
he said in a detached tone.
I was the one who opened her eyes to who your father really is. She shouldn't have married him.
A snicker left him on the word married, and it seemed to have significance, except I couldn't put my finger on it.
She wanted to use me to get back at him. Well, I used her too.
My whole body became eerily still. What? My heart drummed under my ribs, cracking them with each beat as I waited for him to clarify his statement. He never did. What do you mean?
It means she finally understood who's the boss.
I swallowed, struggling with the information.
She needed an eye-opener, so I gave it to her. She learned what your father is about, and the truth about who came before her.
Who? I stuttered.
His previous wife.
My mouth parted and shock shot through me. Papa was married before? Why did that feel wrong? He had never mentioned it. Neither did Grandma. My head swam. My stomach lurched.
Don't you know, girl?
He said, his voice taunting.
We all came into the world screaming and covered in someone's blood. And we'll leave the same way.
I'd heard those words before, only slightly different. Mama said them when she was dying. We all came into this world screaming and covered in blood. All we can do is make sure we don't leave the same way. Did she hear that from him? I was too wrapped up in pondering this information that I didn't see the next move. For an intoxicated person, he moved fast. 1 minute, he was casually leaning against the doorway, and the next, his body slammed into mine, his sour breath against my bare flesh. My head hit the cold metal of the fridge, sending a bolt of pain through my skull. The air wheezed out of my lungs, and I tasted blood in my mouth. My lungs burned. Fear rattled the cage of my panic, stealing all my oxygen. I thrashed against him with all my strength, but it wasn't enough. He backhanded me so hard that stars swam in my vision. He gripped both of my wrists and lifted them above my head. I refused to stop fighting. Then a vicious slash burned on my arms, the familiar sting of pain as he tried to slip my wrists. It was at that moment, that very moment, I decided I'd never cut myself again. I wanted to live. I was a survivor, and I'd be damned if I went down without a fight. His hand wrapped around my throat, squeezing it with all his strength, and slammed my back against the fridge again with such force that my teeth clattered.
Little girl,
he growled.
You're no match for me.
Let go of me, you bastard! I croaked, miserably aware of my body's weakness. My family will destroy you. His grip tightened. I was getting lightheaded, dots dancing before my vision. My heart jackhammered in my chest, fear, thick and sticky, filling my mouth.
Which one of you brats is mine?
I blinked, the question catching me off guard. I don't know what you're talking about. I wheezed, my voice barely audible as I desperately scratched at his forearms and kicked my legs.
You are lying,
he hissed, squeezing tightly.
It better not be that deaf freak.
Adrenaline and fury zipped through me. I clawed at his hold, attempting to knee him in the balls. Don't talk about my sister like that, I croaked, scratching at his hands when he slapped me hard again. My ears rang and my cheek burned. Before I could inhale my next breath, a punch followed. It felt like my head exploded and a single tear rolled down my face. Neither one of us is yours, you sick bastard. He grinned like an evil maniac.
The timing points to her, though. It's a good thing nobody knows.
Hopelessness rose up in my chest in the face of this monster. Death was coming for me. I could feel the shadows creeping in, its cold fist knocking against the invisible door, but I refused to answer. Instead, I gathered all my remaining strength and rammed my knee between his legs. He bucked, his grip loosening. Letting go of his forearms, I clawed at his stomach, and my fingers wrapped around cold metal. A gun. I didn't think, didn't question my next move. I just reacted. I gripped it and pulled the trigger. At the exact time that fireworks exploded outside our window. Bang! I couldn't distinguish the noise between the fireworks and the gun, but as the sky lit up and hues of blues and reds filtered through to the kitchen, a terrible scream severed the air. I stumbled back and took in the sight before me. Mr. Leone, red eyes popping out of his deathly pale face, mouth gaping open and shut. His grip on my throat eased slowly until his hand fell down the length of his body altogether. With every ounce of strength I had left, I punched him in the stomach, right in the bullet wound.
Look,
he rasped, stumbling away from me, reaching for something to balance himself. Pots and silverware clattered onto the kitchen floor. He hung onto the counter, trembling, like I'd been mere seconds ago. His face was the picture of disbelief, the blood he was losing evidenced in its pallor. My hand flew to my mouth and I bit into the tender flesh of my palm as I panted, each breath burning my lungs. I took a step back, then another. My heart drummed against my ribs and I watched with horror as he fell sideways onto the floor, blood gushing from his wound. My mouth moved, but I made no sound. It wasn't until my back hit the refrigerator that I could finally breathe. "Did you rape my mother?" My voice was eerily calm, the sound of my breathing mixing with his heavy wheeze. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth.
She came willingly, but then she broke it off.
My stomach dropped.
But that last time,
He left the meaning lingering.
I couldn't let her go. She should have been mine.
This man was fucking crazy. Mama would never want someone like that. "You're lying," I spat. "She would never come to you willingly. Why would she?" I shouldn't have asked, but not knowing just wasn't my thing.
After she married him,
He panted.
she came willingly. Revenge is best served when angry, not cold. It wreaks havoc and destroys everything in its path.
His voice grew faint with each word.
Although, I must say, I didn't expect to see him in my home that summer. You and your sister are the spitting image of her that I remember.
His eyes were squeezed tight and the hands covering his wound were stained red now, blood overflowing onto the tiles. That summer, that dreaded fucking summer when Mama killed herself, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What?" He laughed, spurting more blood from his mouth.
He has no idea it was me. I touched his wife, fucked his wife, and he still made a deal with me.
His words pushed me over the edge, and at that moment my mind was made up. I was already too deep in the underworld. "Go to hell and stay there." My voice was raspy, foreign. I wasn't a killer, but I'd kill him. With that, I raised my arm and took aim.
Phoenix is mine,
He whispered, and they were the last words he'd ever speak. I pulled the trigger again. Bang! The bullet hit his neck, piercing a hole through it. Mr. Leone's body twitched on the pristine white tile of the kitchen, his fingers trying to staunch the bloody wound at his neck. A terrible gurgling noise sounded from his throat, blood leaking from his lips, until all life vanished from his eyes, leaving them blank and empty. Just like me.
13. Amen. We arrived at the port 30 minutes before my shipment from tomorrow was scheduled to hit the dock. Empty containers sat around, waiting for the product that was due to arrive soon. Everything was already in place. The chilly breeze whipped at my face, and gray clouds thickened above our heads, signaling an impending storm. Everything seemed to be in order, yet nothing felt right. A maze of containers, Dante arguing with Cesar about some shit they watched on TV yesterday, like two fucking children. Cesar was a decade older than Dante, which made him look even worse. But he was a good fighter. Kingston, better known as Ghost, kept his focus on the horizon with narrowed eyes. He wasn't overly social or personable, but there was no one better than him when it came to torture and tracking. He was an excellent fighter and an even better strategist. I was making my way over to the dock, checking on my men positioned further in the warehouse, when a movement behind me caught my attention. I spun around and saw the hem of a coat before it disappeared behind a container. I tapped my earpiece. "Eyes open, boys. We have visitors." No sooner than I uttered those words, someone opened fire. A stream of bullets erupted, the sound deafening. "A fucking machine gun," Kingston's voice filtered through. Thankfully, I ducked just in time to avoid a bullet. Behind the container, I let my eyes scan the area to get a read on the situation. 3 men, 10 o'clock, I hissed in my earpiece. 2 at 2 o'clock. 5 at 11, Dante barked. Good. At least we weren't surrounded. Not yet, anyhow. "Don't let them get behind us," I said, as I aimed and eliminated the first man, then shot the next in the head. I could hear voices speaking in Portuguese. Narrowing my eyes, I surveyed the men, and it didn't take long to spot the man in charge. "The ugly one, at 11 o'clock. Keep him alive." "They're all ugly," Dante grumbled. "Can you be more specific?" I gritted my teeth. Dante could be funny as fuck and annoying enough to kill at the same time. "The one with dark hair and a gash on his face," Kingston's eerily calm voice came through. "Is that specific enough?" "Yes." By Dante's snicker, I knew it wasn't the last of his words. "I don't want to accidentally shoot the ugly fuckers on our side." "There's only the 4 of us and 3 other men," I deadpanned. "Exactly." I was certain he insulted us somewhere in that statement. Dante laughed like a maniac. Yes, he was back to his usual self, as he killed everyone in his path, their blood splattering all around him. Running between the containers, the 4 of us closed in on the enemy, taking them down systematically. I missed a few times to ensure the main fucker remained alive. I barely missed being shot myself, but I was trained for this. I had more to lose. The thought of my brother on the other side of a bullet spurred the adrenaline out of me. A car appeared out of nowhere. "Not ours," Kingston said, confirming my suspicion. The vehicle revved, spiraling out of control. I watched the head guy climb to the top of the container and then jump onto the truck. "Fuck this live capture. Kill the bastard." Aiming for him, I took a shot, but only grazed him. "Fuck!" I shot the tire, causing the car to swerve to the side, but before it could reach me, my dear brother launched a grenade through the air. "Are you fucking nuts?" Kingston barked, one of the rare occasions his voice reflected his emotions. "The entire French police force will feel that fucking grenade." I pulled out my phone and typed a quick message to Luca DeMauro. "Turn the shipment around. Red flag." He'd understand. With efficiency, we moved, eliminating the rest of the men I suspected worked for the Cortez cartel. Red blurred my vision, but I refused to let it hinder me. In the span of 5 minutes, we eliminated every enemy but 2. Dante dragged one by his hair, while I got the leader, if he could be called that. "Maldito bastardo," he spat out. Dante got into his face. "We don't speak, asshole." Kingston shook his head. That was all we fucking did. "Where is your whore?" the fucker spat out, glaring at me. "It takes a whore's son to recognize a whore."
Rage zipped through me, but I just smiled. We'll discuss that in a bit. He could call me a whore's son until the cows came home, but it was a death sentence to call her a whore. I was fairly certain that's who he meant. Let's get these two somewhere we can teach them a lesson, I drawled, my smile matching my brother's. Years of training taught me to be calm. It trained me to control my emotions, be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and to keep anyone from getting into my head. Except she happened. The only one who'd ever managed to raise the complex feelings that lingered inside me. I was cursed to walk this eternal abyss of a life alone. Mother's secrets, lies, and betrayal buried deep inside me. Everything that happened tainted each word and moment with her, and I didn't think there was a way back from it. Tension descended over me like an iron curtain. I had to move on, but I didn't know how. The fucking Brazilian cartel thought they could attack our warehouse on the outskirts of Paris and steal our product. They must have smoked the product, because they were fucking crazy if they thought we owed them anything. I smoothed my hair and adjusted the buttons on my jacket that had come undone. I watched now as Ghost collected the teeth of each man he killed or injured. At this rate, he could build a house of fucking teeth. With the two men we kept alive, we arrived at the warehouse 10 minutes away. It'd buy us enough time to drag some information out of this sidekick and the main guy, whose name was Raul, and would soon be dead. But first, he'd tell me why in the fuck he was on my property. "You're starting a war with the cartel," he said in a heavy accent, then spit at my feet. "I'm not starting anything," I said calmly, apathetically. "You started this clusterfuck. I'm simply finishing it." He was a bulky man with a buzz cut, not overly intelligent, judging by how easily we'd taken his entire crew down. And yet, hope lingered in his eyes. "Now tell me, what does Perez Cortez want with my shit?" "He wants retribution and payment for the product you cost him," Raul said behind clenched teeth. Dante made his way over, dragging a Brazilian by his head, and threw him beside Raul. The rat looked at his leader, his entire body trembling. "Por favor," he muttered. "Por favor." "Tell us what you know, and we'll make it quick." I fetched my knife. "Otherwise, we'll make this a week-long affair." "Shut the fuck up," Raul instructed. I grabbed Raul and positioned him on his knees, facing his subordinate. Then, to drive my point home, I sliced his ear off in one move. "This is just the beginning," I drawled, blood spurting from his wound, staining his clothes and mine. It must have been exactly the incentive his man needed, though. "Hey, big boss, wanted us to get your product and the girl." The coward breathed heavily. I stilled, feeling Dante's gaze on me, but I ignored him. The dark circles surrounding my eyes portrayed how little I'd been sleeping. Every inch of me revolted at the idea of being anywhere in this world where she wasn't, even in my dreams. The thought of closing my eyes and drifting off to sleep terrified the fuck out of me. Neither scenario made me feel better, not dreaming about her or dreaming about her. My brother's eyes were shining like a madman's, ready to play and torture. He wasn't far off the edge, prepared to lose his own shit, although it remained to be seen why. "What girl?" My jaw tightened, the words coiling up alongside my anger. The fucker actually pissed himself.
"Shut the fuck up,"
Howell screamed, panting and jerking against the hold ghost hat on him.
"Shut up. I don't know who she is."
I retrieved my phone, scrolling to the only photo I had of Raina. I'd snapped it while she was staring at the floating lanterns, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "This girl?" He stared at the picture, and the flicker of recognition in his eyes was answer enough. His eyes darted to Howell while trying to fight Dante's grip. I needed him to verbally confirm, even though I already knew the answer. "Don't fucking look at him." I clutched his head and made him meet my eyes. "I'll ask you one last time. Is that the girl?"
Yes."
I sliced his throat in one swift motion. Blood bathed the floor and my clothing, splattering my freshly polished shoes. Gurgling sounds filled the space, but my rage was louder. Next, I shoved a knife into Howell's chest, right where his black heart resided, and twisted it. "I'm going to send you back to Perez and your family, all carved out." I leaned down and stared at his beady black eyes. "You messed with the wrong girl. I'm going to wipe out every single one of you and ensure none of you ever roam the world again." The new year would bring bloodshed. Raina Romero brought out the best in me. Now the world would see the worst.
14. Raina. I sat on the kitchen floor with my knees pulled up to my chest and blood pooling all around me for who knew how long. My eyes drifted down my body, gulping when they reached my blood-stained hands. Who would have thought this was how the night would end? Me, drenched in the blood of our parents' sins. I knew I'd be okay physically, but the things I'd heard tonight were inked on my soul. It broke my heart that I couldn't protect Phoenix from this gruesome scene, yet I was at a loss as to what to do. I couldn't exactly send the body down the garbage disposal. Bile rose in my throat, but I shoved it down. I clenched my teeth, my heart beating fast as I stared at the man whose blood was now on my hands. Tonight, I'd killed. The realization hit me full force. Silent tears streamed down my face. Those dead eyes would haunt my nightmares for the foreseeable future. I couldn't look away from his ashen face, though. The blood-stained silver hair, dull blue eyes. Angelo Leone raped my mother. He deserved to be dead. He destroyed our family. What if Papa learned that Mama had an affair with Angelo Leone and then broke it off, resulting in her rape? No. I had to keep this secret to protect Papa and Phoenix. Panic filled my lungs and I fought the urge to crawl into the bathroom. I wanted to turn the shower on and let water fall over me while I inflicted physical pain on myself. Anything was better than this ache inside my chest. God, I was sick and tired of feeling so fucking broken. An invisible hand clawed its fingers around my throat and dug them in, mocking me. The tremors started in my hands and spread until my entire body shook. Pressure built inside me and screamed at me to release it. Just one cut, and it'd be all better. I squeezed my eyes tight, but the voice became louder, lashing at my skull, hurting me with bruises that would never heal. Forcing my eyes open and ignoring the burning, I focused on the dead body. Dead eyes. I released a shuddering breath and forced myself to replace it, filling my lungs. I watched the whole encounter play on repeat in my mind, over and fucking over again. I guess I'm a killer now. The realization shook me, but I couldn't find an ounce of regret inside. He'd hurt my mother, and I wouldn't let him get his hands on Phoenix. The gun still sat heavy and cold in my hand. Death was too easy. A simple pull of the trigger and then it was over. Something awoke inside me. Dark, consuming, vengeful. I let it fester as the world moved in slow motion. I remembered my childhood, my mother, her smiling face. Had she been happy? It was a question I needed the answer to now more than ever. Maybe our family's happiness had all been smoke and mirrors. A part of me refused to admit the truth, even to myself. Otherwise, why would my mama ever have an affair with Angelo Leone of her own free will? I didn't know. All I was certain of was that Phoenix could never know. I'd make certain of it. A dark shadow formed inside me, ripping and tearing at my soul, freeing emotions that I'd never entertained before. Hate. Blinding and consuming. It tasted like acid and blood. These feelings terrified me. Even as fear gripped my throat, I knew I'd do it all over again if I had to. If I had to kill 1,000,000 men, I would do it. For her. For our family. I didn't know how long I sat there, staring at him, unable to look away, when I heard the soft rustle of the door opening. Giggles. Whispers. My eyes strayed to the kitchen entrance, waiting for my sister and friends to appear. It didn't take long. Then, silence. Deafening. Frightening. What the fuck? I wasn't sure who said it, but even in their intoxicated state, 1,000,000 emotions passed over their somber-looking faces. I wanted to crawl into my bed and never wake up, but I couldn't bring myself to move. I killed him, I whispered, my eyes finding my sister's. I'm not sorry. Nobody moved. Seconds stretched into minutes. It was Athena who finally motioned to the dead corpse. Who the fuck is this? Raven rasped, her eyes glued to the lump on the floor. It seemed the resemblance between Dante and Angelo Leone, the corpse, wasn't as evident. Did he? Phoenix swallowed with an audible gulp. Did he touch you? I shook my head as a tremor zipped down my spine. He didn't rape me, but he'd raped my mother. How did he get in? Athena croaked, looking like a deer in headlights. I wetted my lips, the cut on my lip stinging before I spoke. I answered the door. Before I could shut it, he pushed in. Isla stared at the body with a horrified expression before turning to look at me. Who is he? Isla asked again. Angelo Leone, Phoenix answered, Dante and Eamon's father. Everyone stared back at me, their eyes wider than when they'd first taken in the scene, if that were even possible. Do you think he came because he found out about you and Eamon? I pulled my knees closer into my chest. I don't think so. I cut myself off, not wanting to say too much. It was best my sister and friends didn't know about Mama's history with Angelo Leone. He seemed drunk, I ended up saying. We have to get rid of the body, Athena stated. Or we'll go to prison, Raven added. Have you seen Les Miserables? French prisons are no joke. Is there a prison that is? Isla asked wryly. Their conversation echoed in my head, but it didn't register. My sister stepped over the blood and kneeled beside me, slipping her hand into mine as if she could sense the chaos running rampant. She squeezed my hand, and I slowly lifted my eyes, meeting her expression. The same blue as mine, the same blue as our mother's. Beneath my frozen expression, Angelo Leone's revelation screamed at me. My hands were stained with the blood of her father. Maybe I'd been tainted all my life. Papa's blood flowing through my veins, waiting for the darkness to awaken, waiting to set it free. Phoenix released my hand and cupped my face. An uneasy, forbidden feeling slithered down my spine as I realized this would be another secret I'd have to keep from my sister. Finally, she released my face. Are you okay? Yes. No. He beat the shit out of you. Athena pointed out the obvious, her fingers trembling as she tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. A shudder rippled down my spine. It's not as bad as it looks, I rasped, my voice sounding strange to my ears, hollow, lifeless. Then, as if a dam broke, all my pent-up emotions from the past few months ever since Eamon broke me, burst forth. I was swept up in a tidal wave of heartache and pain. They washed over me, drowning me, and I let them. I was pulled under into my pain, sadness, and betrayal as I buried my face into my sister's shoulder and a wail tore from my throat. My eyes burned. My muscles ached from the force of the wretched, soul-racking sobs. My sister kept me moored, stroking my hair. Our friends huddled around us, murmuring soothing sounds. And all the while, a dead body lay not 4 feet from us. The girl who met Eamon Leone in a castle by the sea was long gone by the time my tears dried. Raina. First things first. Raven seemed to be the only calm, cool, and collected one. She pointed a finger at me. You need a shower. Then we need to brainstorm ideas about what to do with this body. Why aren't you freaking out? Athena muttered. Have you killed before? Isla mumbled, half joking and half serious. Raven shook her head. Remember how I told you that I saw a mobster kill and dispose of a body before? All of us stared at her, our jaws on the kitchen floor. She waved her hand, probably anticipating our questions. It's a long story, and we don't have time for it right now. Let's all change into something black. Why black? Isla whispered. It's easier to blend into the night. Raven answered. I think so, anyhow. You're scaring me right now, Athena grumbled. Shouldn't we be scared of the dead body in the middle of our kitchen? Phoenix cut through their nonsense before the police find themselves at our door. I'm legit freaked out, Isla chimed in. And why is Raina just staring at him? I finally tore my eyes from the dead body and met their faces. You know I'm still here, right? My sister hooked her hands around my waist and pulled me to my feet. Let's get you into the bathroom. We're coming too, Athena squealed. I can't stomach a dead body. Meh, I don't mind it now that I'm older, Raven announced. And all of us shot her a dumbfounded look. Okay, I'm freaked out. I just don't know how to deal with it. We all nodded in agreement. It was new territory for all of us. I took a step out of the kitchen when an idea struck me. What if... I cleared my throat as the gruesome images made bile rise in my throat. Maybe we should dismember him, I suggested softly. 4 sets of eyes watched me, unblinking. It'll be easier to move him. Heavy silence fell over the room. A kitchen that looked like a battlefield, a blood-smeared floor, a dead body, and it was my suggestion that shocked them the most. I don't know if I should be proud or worried, Phoenix finally signed. Proud, Raven answered at the same time Isla said, worried. I inhaled a shaky breath before exhaling slowly. There's no way we can carry him in one piece and not look suspicious, I reasoned. So what? Isla's voice was high-pitched. Do we chop him up with a steak knife? I think we'll need a bigger knife than that, Raven muttered, leading the rest of us to gag. I rolled my shoulders back, swallowing the excess saliva that warned I was about to puke. How big? I asked. Raina, you can't be serious. Raina, you can't be serious, Athena whisper-screeched. Are we supposed to do it in our sink? I swallowed, but my voice shook when I said, Don't be silly. We never fit his body into our kitchen sink. No, Isla whimpered, tugging on her hair. We only have one bathroom. Anything but our bathtub. We'll get it renovated, Phoenix signed. I'll use my studio rental money and we'll renovate the bathroom. So much for bubble baths, Athena grumbled. I guess until then, we'll just take showers. Okay, so we have the first part figured out, Raven announced, matter-of-factly. We'll cut him up. We should send his balls to his family, Phoenix added with a serious expression on her face, so they know to stop fucking with us. Maybe just his dick, I muttered, feeling tired. Maybe we'd reached a breaking point with the Leone men. It was a good thing there were no more Leone sons roaming this earth or we'd be doomed. I'm in, Raven announced. I'll deliver it to their door, disguised as FedEx. I don't even want to know why you have a FedEx uniform, Isla grumbled. Forget personal delivery, Phoenix stated. I agree with Phoenix, Athena chimed in. We'll just have to package his dick well so it doesn't bleed through the box. Probably need to pack it in ice too so it doesn't start to stink. Then we ship it from the rural outpost of a post office so there's no surveillance, no technology to be hacked into. It wasn't a bad idea. Athena either watched too much CSI or she was a serial killer in her previous life. More than likely, she was doing research for her own book. Where are we going to bury the body parts? Isla asked. Everyone's eyes darted to me, like I was some kind of expert. My eyes lowered to my hands, still stained with Leone's blood. My innocence was gone, although I started to wonder if it was ever there in the first place. My pulse quickened, and I squeezed my eyes shut, taking deep breaths. In and out. In and out. It wasn't the time for a panic attack. I had to get my shit together. I had to become tougher, stronger. With a final shuddering exhale, my eyes lifted to find my friends and sister studying me. I shook my head in an attempt to clear it. Isla was right. We needed a place to stash the body away. It definitely couldn't stay here. The catacombs, I said on a shaky exhale, the idea coming out of nowhere. It's hardly time for sightseeing, Athena croaked. It's where we should put the body parts, I clarified, signing at the same time. It was a grotesque picture with my